Chapter 639. Qin and the others only stayed in the town for a day. On the second day, they set off once again. After the Qin clan communicated with the local factions, the mortals were settled in very well. Moreover, they didn't ask for much, so even though there were many of them, it wasn't very troublesome to settle them down. Qin and the others left. The mortals sent them off for more than 10 miles, feeling grateful. Next, everyone's target was Danyang City. After the city was conquered, the main force of the Zhu clan was stationed there. Moreover, it was said that the Qin clan was still fighting hard there. Qin decided to take down Danyang City for Qinxing and Qinhe first. The group advanced along the main road. When they passed by some towns occupied by the Zhu clan, they decisively attacked and killed all the Zhu clan members. However, compared to the towns with many Dan essence cultivators, the experts in the other towns were much weaker. At most, one of them could fly. As for Dan essence cultivators, they didn't have a single one. Everywhere they passed, Qin and the others repeated two things: kill, save, kill, save. News of Qin's return once again spread through the various towns. Then, from the towns, it spread to Danyang City. Qin had grown to the point where he needed a sect master to kill him. After so many years, he reappeared with a group of sect masters. Naturally, it caused a commotion. At night, Qin set up camp in a newly conquered town. Naturally, all the Zhu clan cultivators here were killed. After discussing the arrangements for the mortals, he returned to his room. Qin. There was a knock on the door. As the door opened, Qinxing walked in and said, Qin, someone from our clan came from Danyang City. He wants to see you. Did he bring some news? Let him in. Qin looked up. Then, he walked in with a familiar-looking, middle-aged man. Qin, this is our brother's uncle, Qin Fengyong, Qinxing introduced. Greetings, Lord Qin. The man wanted to bow to Qin. Senior, what's the meaning of this? Qin hurriedly got up and supported him. He had already recognized this middle-aged man. He was the one who had protected him with Lu Mingyong, Wang Jinwei, and the others when he killed the 5 freaks on the decapitation stage. However, the current him had clearly taken the final step of flight manipulation and had become a master. The news of Master Qin killing a mid-stage primal core cultivator from the Zhu family has already spread. Calling me senior is too much for me, Qin Fengyong said with trepidation. Qin is indebted to senior, and Qin will always remember your kindness. Qin, who didn't want to dwell on this topic, asked directly, Senior, are you here to tell me something? Qin Fengyong no longer bothered about how to address them. He nodded and said, You guys are going to Danyang City. That's right, we plan to conquer Pilsun City, Qin said honestly. No, you can't go to Danyang City now. Why? The 2 Qin brothers looked at their uncle in confusion. Once the news of you killing a primal core cultivator from the Zhu family spread, the Zhu family in Danyang City has already made preparations. There are dozens of primal core cultivators gathered there, and each of them has a core weapon. In addition, there are 2 mid-stage primal core cultivators waiting for you, Qin Fengyong said. Dozens of primal core cultivators? We've already killed dozens of them. How can a mere Zhu family have so many primal core cultivators? Could it be that all of their primal core cultivators are here, and there's no one left to guard Spirit Brilliant City? Qin asked in confusion. Qin Fengyong suddenly sighed. This is all my Qin family's fault. The people in this area are in a terrible situation, but the Qin family is a sinner. Sigh, my family is unfortunate. Uncle, what happened? The 2 brothers looked at Qin Fengyong. Qin also looked at him in confusion. It's all because of the Calamity Evasion Pill. If not for the family's Calamity Evasion Pill formula being leaked, there wouldn't be so many primal core cultivators in this area. Qin Fengyong said in frustration. What's going on? Even if the formula was leaked, this area is lacking in resources. They shouldn't be able to gather all the spiritual herbs required for the calamity evasion pill, right? Zichen asked. Naturally, they wouldn't be able to gather all the spiritual herbs in this area. But with the help of the Assassin's Pavilion, they could easily gather all the spiritual herbs. And with the Qin family skills, it would be easy for them to concoct the calamity evasion pill. The Qin family skills? Zichen looked at Qin Fengyong in confusion. It's my third brother, the family's genius alchemist. He betrayed the family and chose to team up with the assassins of the Assassin's Pavilion. He was the one who leaked the calamity evasion pill formula. Qin Fengyong, who had an angry look on his face, explained the whole story. It turned out that it was all because of the family's genius alchemist. In order to become the head of the family, he did not hesitate to give out the calamity evasion pill formula. Coupled with the timely invasion of the Assassin's Pavilion, both parties had wild ambitions. One party provided unlimited resources, while the other provided alchemy skills. This created a sea of primal core cultivators. Qin Xing and Qin He were stunned. The genius alchemist was their third uncle. Their alchemy skills were learned from him. You mean if I bring people to Rising Sun City now, not only will we be attacked by the Zhu family, but the Qin family in Rising Sun City will attack us as well? Zichen frowned. Qin Fengyong had already said that the Zhu family was not the only one in Rising Sun City. There was also the Qin family who chose to follow his third brother. They have long been in cahoots. If not for them, Rising Sun City would not have fallen so early. Qin Fengyong's eyes were filled with hatred. He could not forget these people who opened the city gates and betrayed their family members. When I heard the news of your appearance, I was also afraid that you would not know the situation there. If you were attacked by them, it would be over. So I rushed over in the middle of the night. Zichen looked at Qin Fengyong and said, "What if we kill your third brother and the entire Zhu family? How is that possible? The total number of primal core cultivators in their two factions is more than 50. Qin Fengyong looked at Zichen in disbelief. "We also have dozens of primal core cultivators," Zichen said indifferently. When Qin Fengyong heard this, he was even more shocked. Although he wanted to kill these scum to avenge his family, he still shook his head after thinking carefully. He said, "It is useless to attack Rising Sun City now. Since you have such a strong force, why don't you go and reinforce Yongqi City? Our family's elites and experts have all gone to Yongqi City to fight there." Yongqi City's Lu family. Which faction is fighting with the Lu family? Martial ancestor, Gung family, Qin Fengyong said. Qin Fengyong said, "Now this area is in complete chaos. After the godly slaughter pavilion came back, they suddenly became very strong. They have many inner core experts, and they have recruited the martial ancestor, Psanli, Chu, Gung, and Zhu 5 major powers. Then they started a war with our Wang, Lu, and Qin." Qin Fengyong then explained the current situation. Zichen nodded. After thinking for a while, he said, "Go and call the others." Qin Xing got up and went to inform the others. Soon, everyone arrived except for the monk. "Where is the monk?" Zichen asked. Everyone shook their heads. They did not know where the monk went. "When it was almost dark, I saw him go out alone. He should be outside. Miao Kong was the last person to see the monk. He went out." Zichen's powerful spiritual sense spread out in an instant, searching for the monk's traces. But the monk was not in the town. He went out in the middle of the night and is not in the town. Where could he have gone? Zichen frowned. Everyone shook their heads, indicating that they did not understand. Suddenly, Zichen seemed to have thought of something. His figure flashed and flew out of the door. "Wait for me here. Long Hu, come with me." When Zichen flashed out, Long Hu, who had received the telepathic message, had already turned into a ray of light and appeared. Zichen sat on Long Hu's back and soared into the sky, speeding into the distance. It had been a few days since the last spiritual transformation. Zichen could vaguely guess why the monk suddenly disappeared. It must be that the monk could not suppress his current realm and needed to undergo a tribulation to break through. Sure enough, after flying for a few hundred miles, he felt that the world was filled with an oppressive aura. Under this aura, all beasts prostrated themselves, not daring to make a sound. The world was dead silent. As he rushed forward, there was a vast pressure in this oppressive aura. It was like the might of the heavens. Zi Qin could not be more familiar with this aura. It was the aura of the heavenly lightning tribulation. The monk came out alone to undergo the tribulation here. After finding the monk, Zi Chen was relieved. However, he was still somewhat angry. The monk did not tell him about such an important tribulation and came out alone. In the dark night there was dead silence. A vast and terrifying aura surged between the heavens and the earth. A figure filled with golden Buddhist energy stood in the air in this silent world. Boom! Suddenly, there was an earth-shattering sound of thunder. The dark night was cut open by a silver light, making it as bright as day. A vast heavenly lightning appeared from the 9 heavens, bringing with it a terrifying aura that could destroy the world. As it fell, the heavenly lightning seemed to have turned into a lightning dragon. With a long tail, it was filled with terrifying thunder might as it landed on the golden figure. Boom! With a loud bang, the lightning dragon exploded, turning into a terrifying force of lightning that wreaked havoc on the golden figure. The silver light devoured the golden light. This was the monk's heavenly lightning tribulation. Just the first heavenly lightning alone had such terrifying power. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud tremor in the air. The silver light scattered in all directions, and the dazzling golden light lit up the world again. The monk had blocked the first heavenly lightning. Then came the second. The silver light was dazzling. The heavenly lightning was like a lightning dragon that fell again. The monk's heavenly lightning tribulation also had 9, each stronger than the last. In the end, the power of the heavenly lightning tribulation made even Zi Qin, who was often struck by lightning, feel his scalp tingle. After seeing Wang Qiong's heavenly lightning tribulation and the monk's, Zi Qin could not help but worry about his own heavenly lightning tribulation. The heavenly lightning tribulation he experienced before was not a tribulation recognized by the heavens and the earth. It was a tribulation triggered by a cultivation technique. The real heavenly lightning tribulation had yet to come. When he took the last step, it would be the first heavenly lightning tribulation in his life. At that time, the difficulty of the heavenly lightning tribulation would be beyond Zi Chen's imagination. The monk's heavenly lightning tribulation was daunting but not dangerous. After he passed the tribulation and broke through, he nodded at Zi Chen in the distance and chuckled. Chapter 640. The two didn't exchange pleasantries. After Monk broke through, they turned back. Something happened, Monk asked on the way back. Zi Chen nodded. The situation in the barbarian land is more complicated than we thought. If necessary, we may have to go back and bring some people back. 30 men of sacrifice, more than 10 primordial core cultivators, and us. Such a strong battle force isn't enough. Monk looked surprised. Zi Chen shook his head and said, I'm not sure. It shouldn't be a problem to drive them away, but it's still not enough to control the entire barbarian land. After that, Zi Chen talked about the tribulation avoidance pills. Heavens, with unlimited resources to make tribulation avoidance pills. Doesn't that mean there's a core formation pavilion that can be used anytime? Monk's eyes widened. They knew the value of the core formation pavilion best. When there was no war, it was useless, but when there was, it was a treasure that could continuously produce primordial core cultivators. And now, the barbarian land was obviously in the middle of a war. With this thing, it meant that the cultivators in the barbarian land were no longer affected by the lack of resources. The number of primordial core cultivators would definitely increase rapidly. Zi Chen's worry was not unreasonable. When the two returned, the sky was already bright. Everyone didn't rest at night and had been waiting. When they saw Monk return, and his aura was obviously many times stronger, everyone understood and congratulated him. Monk's breakthrough was a good thing for everyone. This area is no longer the barbarian land we were familiar with. There are many uncertain factors and dangers. So if you're going to undergo tribulation in the future, it's better to inform us in advance so that we can prepare for it as soon as possible, Zichen said in a low voice while everyone was present. Everyone nodded. Are we going to Yongqi City to help the Lu family? Miao Kong asked. Obviously, Zichen wasn't here last night. Qin Fengyong had already told them what he told Zichen before. Yes, let's go directly to Yongqi City. Zichen nodded. On the way, he had already discussed with Monk. Under the current situation, they could only ally with some forces, and only after that could they have a win-win situation. Thus, the group went on their way, heading straight for Yongqi City. As for Qin Fengyong, he continued to return to Rising Sun City to gather information. The news of Zichen's return had already spread to Danyang City. Many inner core experts in Danyang City were also prepared to battle with Zichen and his group. However, who would have thought that they would receive news that Zichen and his group had taken a detour and left? Hearing this news, an uproar broke out in Danyang City. Even the Zhu family members, who were fully prepared, were disappointed. They were fully prepared, waiting to end the legend created by Zichen here. Who would have thought that their meticulous preparations would scare the other party away? Zichen and his group headed straight for Yongqi City. Furthermore, they sped up. Along the way, although they saw many mortals suffering and towns that had been conquered by large factions, they did not choose to stop and help. This was because it was useless. Not only would doing so be a waste of time, but it would also not have any substantial effect. If they wanted fewer mortals to die, they would have to beat back those large factions with lightning speed. During the fierce battle, Yongqi City's Lu family finally lost and began to retreat. They retreated into the city and then activated the Great City Barrier Formation. At this point, the Great City Barrier Formation had been besieged by the martial ancestor and the Gung family for more than a month. After more than a month of continuous attacks, the Great City Barrier Formation had reached its limit and could break at any time. Outside the city, the two factions had already gathered an army of cultivators, ranging from the true Qi boundary to the true element boundary. There were more than 10,000 of them, forming a dense black mass. In the sky, there were dozens of Yuzongs standing in the air. In front of them were more than 10 early inner core experts. They were the vanguard of the two factions. Their main purpose was to break through the Great City Barrier Formation and kill their way into the city. The real battle was between the experts with their foundations. The leader of the martial ancestor was a middle-aged man with thick eyebrows. If Zichen were here, he would definitely recognize him at a glance. This was someone he had once looked up to and worshipped as an idol, but now he hated him to the core. This Great City Barrier Formation has reached its limit. One more round of attacks, and it will break. The middle-aged man with thick eyebrows said coldly, "Attack!" After the energy in his body recovered, the middle-aged man with thick eyebrows coldly ordered. Beside him, a group of inner core experts with cold eyes gripped their elixir weapons and surged their yuan qi. These elixir weapons, which were rare even in the chaotic lands, were actually common in the barbarian land. More than 10 inner core experts each had one. Surging essence, force, surged into the alchemy weapons. One by one, the alchemy weapons began to glow. A powerful aura surged out. Then, under the control of the core essence experts, more than 10 alchemy weapons whizzed out and smashed towards the Grand City Barrier Ray. In the Great City Barrier Formation, the Lu family had also gathered a team of thousands. The leader was Lu Mingyong. He held the Wolf Fang weapon tightly in his hand and stared at the elixir weapons outside the city, watching the elixir weapons attacking the Great City Barrier Formation. Boom! More than 10 elixir weapons fell almost at the same time. The Great City Barrier began to tremble violently. The light barrier kept twisting, and the cracks on its surface began to spread. Seeing this scene, the corners of many cultivators' mouths began to twitch. It was unknown whether it was because of nervousness or fear. Boom! The elixir weapons fell on the light barrier for the second time. In the midst of a tremor, the cracks on the surface of the light barrier had already spread to the limit. In the end, it exploded with a loud bang. Terrifying energy surged above Yongchi City. This great city that had experienced many wars was once again blasted open after 5,000 years. After the great city barrier formation broke, the towering city gate exploded with a loud bang. Then, under the command of the middle-aged man with thick eyebrows, more than 10,000 cultivators rushed madly into the city. Kill! At the same time, a cold light flashed in Lu Mingyong's eyes. He shouted loudly. The nervous and frightened cultivators all held up their weapons and used their bodies to block the broken city gate. The sound of sharp weapons piercing into bodies rang out continuously. One cultivator after another fell from the city gate. However, more and more cultivators took their place. The fierce battle at the city gate began. In the sky, after a loud roar, Lu Mingyong rushed out with his spiked club in hand. Behind him, 6 early-stage primal core cultivators with elixir weapons followed. Lu Mingyong danced in the sky with his spiked club. A terrifying aura surged from the club. Wherever it passed, the space would rumble and shatter. The spiked club went straight ahead. Clang! In the clanging sound, 2 attacking elixir weapons were sent flying by the spiked club. Lu Mingyong flew out of the city and charged towards the group of primal core cultivators. The 6 primal core cultivators behind him followed closely. A total of 7 people resolutely charged towards a dozen or so primal core cultivators on the other side. You guys go and kill in the city. After saying this to the primal core cultivators behind him, the middle-aged man with thick eyebrows charged towards Lu Mingyong with a long saber. The dozen or so primal core cultivators beside him also moved, charging towards the 7 people from the Lu family. Seeing the fierce battle between the primal core cultivators on both sides, the cultivators in the sky tactfully retreated. After landing, they sent out a signal that the city had been breached and charged into the city gate. The battle began instantly. There were primal core cultivators fighting in the sky, and there were other cultivators fighting on the ground. However, in terms of numbers, it was obvious that the martial ancestor and the Gung family had more people. The cultivators of the Lu family, who were already retreating and unable to defend the gate, also showed signs of defeat after the cultivators in the sky charged in. As the spirit weapons flashed, they turned into a cold light and slashed across the necks of the cultivators. One by one, heads flew into the sky, and an endless amount of fresh blood spurted out. The powerful spirit weapons against these primal core cultivators in the realm of true energy and realm of true chi was naturally an easy and direct massacre. The cultivators of the Lu family who were guarding the gate began to retreat, allowing the cultivators behind them to charge in. At this moment, the Lu family's spirit weapons quickly caught up and blocked the enemy's spirit weapons. Then they began to fight in the city. All kinds of roars, screams, and the sound of weapons piercing into bodies were heard continuously. One cultivator after another fell. Uffed! Puffed! In the sky, after the spirit weapons collided, there was the sound of blood being spat out. Dark red blood rained down. It was the primal core cultivators who were fighting fiercely with Lu Mingyong. In an instant, 2 of them were sent flying and 2 of them were injured. Such a scene also shocked the crowd of primal core cultivators. However, they were not shocked by Lu Mingyong's powerful combat power. They were shocked by the terrifying power of the Wolf Fong weapon. Lu Mingyong was able to retreat because of the power of the Wolf Fong weapon. Other than that, the other 6 people were able to restrain the others because of the spirit weapons. The Lu family's forging skills had reached a peak. The spirit weapons that they forged were even more powerful. More than 10 people were unable to suppress and kill the other party in a short period of time. It showed how powerful the other party's spirit weapons were. Faced with more and more cultivators entering the city, the cultivators of the Lu family kept retreating. When Lu Mingyong saw this scene in the sky, he could only ask everyone to continue retreating. He was extremely dissatisfied that he could not kill a primal core cultivator. However, there was no other way. The other party had more primal core cultivators. He was not afraid of a one-on-one fight, but the other party obviously did not give him the chance to fight alone. Just as he gestured for everyone to retreat, a sense of danger suddenly appeared in his heart. He did not have time to think and immediately dodged to the side. Poof! Poof! Just as he dodged, a monstrous killing intent appeared in the sky. Then a soft sound was heard. When Lu Mingyong retreated 100 meters away, he was shocked to see that the 6 primal core cultivators who were following him had lost their vitality and fell from the sky. Their fatal wounds were all on their backs. Beside them, the void broke open and the 6 black-robed men disappeared. Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion. Dark red blood flowed down from a severed arm. Lu Mingyong's eyes were burning as he stared straight ahead. In front of him, a masked black-clothed man appeared at the place where he originally stood. The other party's eyes that were exposed were looking at him with ridicule. In his hand, he was still holding his wolf fang weapon. Just a moment ago, the other party's attack had severed his arm. This spirit weapon is not bad. I will kindly accept it. A cold voice came from the other party's mouth. Such a terrifying scene shocked everyone. Chapter 641. Fast, it was too fast. Hiding, launching a sure kill attack, instantly killing 6 core realm cultivators of the Lu family and one of Lu Mingyong's arms. Even if the experts in the city wanted to help, it would be impossible. Moreover, the timing of these assassins was extremely accurate. Just as the 7 of them were preparing to retreat and were distracted, they launched a sure kill attack. It could be said that it was unexpected. Heaven and earth became dead silent. Everyone looked up at the sky, at the black-clothed man holding the wolf fang weapon. The battle naturally came to a stop. Even the cultivators who were robbing and looting the shops subconsciously stopped what they were doing. The people of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion finally appeared. A year ago, the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion made a high-profile comeback and recruited the 5 major forces. However, until now they had not sent out any assassins. Everything was done by the 5 major forces. Today was the first time they made a move since their comeback, but they killed 6 core realm cultivators in a single strike. Even the martial ancestor and the people of the Gung family were shocked. They naturally knew that there were assassins in the dark for this operation. However, they did not sense the presence of the assassins before, so they thought that they did not come. However, they did not expect that the assassins were already here. Moreover, there were several of them. It was just that their concealment skills were so good that they could not sense them. A very good core weapon. I did not expect that such a barbaric place would have such superb forging skills. Just this core weapon mace alone is beyond the reach of many forging masters. The black-clothed man held the wolf fang mace and looked at it carefully. He was very satisfied and did not care about Lu Mingyong's fiery eyes. Moreover, the huge city was dead silent. Only his voice could be heard. After admiring it enough, he looked up at Lu Mingyong with disdain and said, "Do you choose to kill yourself now, or do you want me to do it myself?" "Kill me." Lu Mingyong's eyes seemed to be burning with 2 balls of fire. His face was full of madness. "It's useless even if you self-destruct your core chi. You don't have the time." As if he knew what Lu Mingyong was thinking, the black-clothed man spoke again. Unable to self-destruct his core chi and unable to escape, the only thing waiting for Lu Mingyong was death. However, even if it was death, the black-clothed man still wanted him to choose between killing himself or being killed. "Enough! Your Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion has gone too far." Suddenly, a furious old voice came from the direction of the Lu clan. "Old thing, I advise you not to come out lest you die outside. It's better to hole up like a turtle. Moreover, it's useless even if you come, because as long as you dare to come out, he will die. The black-clothed man said indifferently, "You, all of you." The old voice was furious, but there was nothing he could do. "My time is limited, and so is my patience. Hurry up and choose. Do you want to commit suicide, or do you want me to do it?" The black-clothed man became impatient. Humiliation. In front of so many people, he was forced to choose how he wanted to die. Lu Mingyong's expression became even crazier. Naturally, he would not be manipulated by the assassin. At this moment, he decisively chose to self-destruct his Jindan essence. Even though he knew that self-destructing his Jindan essence would not succeed and that he would be killed in the end, at least this was his choice. You chose to self-destruct your Jindan essence? Humph, it's the same as asking me to attack. Fine, I'll fulfill your wish. The black-robed man snorted coldly and put away the spiked club in his hand. After putting away the spiked club, the next step was to hide and attack. However, before his figure could disappear into the shadows, a voice suddenly came from outside the city. "He's not in a hurry to choose. I can give you a chance to choose first. Do you want to commit suicide, or do you want me to do it myself?" This voice came from outside the city. After hearing it, everyone was stunned and looked up at the sky. They wanted to see who was so bold as to speak at this moment. A figure appeared in the distance. It was a young man. He treated the void as the ground and walked over. The young man looked familiar, but he was in the flight realm. This was the first impression that all the cultivators had when they saw the young man. The next thought that came to their minds was that he had a death wish. The martial ancestor and the Jindan essence of the Gung family also turned their heads. After seeing the young man in the flight realm, they were also stunned. There was obvious doubt on their faces. Where did this flight realm come from? Can't he see the situation in front of him? How dare he speak like this? Is he purely an idiot who came to die? My time is limited, and so is my patience. Hurry up and choose. Do you want to commit suicide, or do you want me to do it for you? The young man in the flight realm imitated the tone of the man in black. In this vast world, only his lonely voice rang out. This time, everyone was sure that they did not hear wrongly or see wrongly. Their faces were filled with confusion and doubt. They did not understand why a mere levitate dared to court death like this. Flight realm. The man in black sneered. This is indeed a barbarian land. Even flight realm cultivators have such character. Of course he has character. At least he has more character than you, a rat from the Heavenly Kill Alliance. The young man in the flight realm sneered. The man in black's expression changed. He stared at Zichun without saying a word. Hearing this, the others were also stunned. They looked at the young man in the flight realm and then at the man in black. The Heavenly Kill Alliance was such a powerful name. However, it was said by the young man in the flight realm. Even they were not sure if he was an assassin from the Heavenly Kill Pavilion or the Heavenly Kill Alliance. Lu Mingyong, who had stopped exploding, took the opportunity to stop his bleeding and swallow an elixir. After seeing the appearance of the young man in the flight realm, he was still in disbelief. "You even know that I am from the Heavenly Kill Alliance. Who are you?" The man in black asked coldly. "I'm Flight Realm Cultivator who specializes in killing Dan elementals." The young man in the flight realm replied indifferently. Everyone's eyes were filled with disdain. Obviously, no one believed that Flight Realm Cultivator could kill Dan elementals. "Why, you don't believe me?" The young man in the flight realm looked at the group of Dan elementals. However, when he saw the middle-aged man with thick eyebrows, his pupils suddenly shrank. No one said a word. Everyone thought that this young man in the flight realm was a fool who had come to die. "You don't believe me? Then I'll show you what it means to kill Dan elementals." Just as the young man in the flight realm finished speaking, a blood-red broken spear appeared in his hand. As soon as the broken spear appeared, a torrential murderous aura surged. Seeing the broken spear in his hand, everyone's expression changed. Even a fool could tell that this was a supreme treasure. The group of Dan elementals had greed in their eyes. Their breathing became rapid. "Look, I'm going to show you." The voice of the young man in the flight realm resounded. After he finished speaking, he held the broken spear and suddenly pierced it into the void in front of him. Looking at the young man piercing through the air, everyone felt relieved. It turned out that he was really a fool. But in the next moment, their expressions froze because this youth actually really did stab out something. It was a person dressed in black with a mask on his face. He held a sharp blade in his hand, and his chest was pierced by the broken spear. How is it? Flight Realm Cultivator, who specializes in killing Dan elementals. Now you believe me, right? The young man shook the broken spear in his hand. The body of the man in black fell from the sky and landed on the ground with a loud thud. Everyone was dumbfounded. They didn't understand what was going on. How could a sudden stab in the air make a killer appear? Even the man in black on the opposite side didn't understand what was going on. Was it really a coincidence that a random stab could pierce through the man's chest? Just like before, the world fell into a dead silence again. What, you still don't believe me? Fine, I'll show you again. The voice of the young man in the flight realm sounded again. Then, under the gaze of everyone, the young man in black took 2 steps forward in the air and pierced the broken spear in his hand again. Another stab in the air, but there was nothing in front of him. After waiting for 2 breaths, they still didn't see anything on the young man's broken spear. Everyone was sure that this young man was a fool. What happened before was just a coincidence. Thinking about the assassin who was stabbed to death by the fool, everyone wanted to laugh. How unlucky was he to be stabbed to death in an instant. However, they didn't laugh out loud, because in the 3rd breath, a figure appeared on the tip of the spear. It was still a man in black, holding a sharp blade. His heart was pierced through, and his vitality was gone. How is it? Do you believe me now? The young man in the flight realm shook his hand again, and the corpse of the Dan elementals fell. Are we seeing a ghost? Looking at the young man in the air, everyone began to feel a chill in their hearts. After stabbing 2 assassins to death, the Dan elementals' expressions became unnatural. However, they still didn't know what had happened. If it was a coincidence, it seemed too coincidental. If it was just strength, how could the young man kill Dan elementals in the air? None of you said anything. That means you still don't believe me. Fine, I'll show you again. However, this is the last time. You have to watch carefully, the young man in the flight realm said very seriously. Everyone's eyes widened, including the Dan elementals. Only the man in black narrowed his eyes and stared coldly in front of him. He naturally knew that there were 4 assassins beside the young man in the flight realm. Originally, the 4 of them were going to attack him. However, after hearing the young man in the flight realm's words, he wanted to verify a question. Therefore, he transmitted his voice and signaled the 4 of them to retreat first. When the 4 of them heard this, they quickly retreated. At this moment, the young man in the flight realm moved. He took a step forward, and the broken spear in his hand suddenly stabbed forward. Then he quickly withdrew the spear, stepped back, and stabbed again. Then, after withdrawing the spear, he stabbed to the left and finally to the right. Just as everyone's eyes widened, the young man in the flight realm stabbed 4 times in the air. Then he withdrew the spear and stood still. Just as everyone was thinking that the young man had stabbed for Dan elementals to death by stabbing 4 times, 4 figures suddenly appeared from the void. They were all men in black. After they appeared, they fell to the ground with their heads raised. Moreover, the vitality of the 4 of them had already disappeared. The fatal wounds were all on the chest. They were all killed in one blow. Seeing this scene, everyone's face was filled with shock. Who are you? The man in black in the front had a drastic change in expression. If he still believed that this was a coincidence, then he would be a real fool. The young man clearly knew the position of these assassins. It was as if he could see them with his eyes. Every time he attacked the same position. Chapter 642. I am a Danyuan expert who specializes in killing Yukong. Now, I will give you a chance to choose. Do you want to commit suicide or do you want me to do it? Hearing Yukong's voice again, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. This chill made them shiver uncontrollably, appearing out of nowhere, stabbing 6 times and killing 6 people, and all of them were Danyuan experts. Was this guy a ghost? None of the Danyuan experts dared to move. They all looked at this familiar and evil Yukong in awe. My time is limited, and so is my patience. Make your choice quickly. Do you want to commit suicide or do you want me to do it? Yukong was still imitating the tone of the man in black. The face of the man in black turned ugly. He was an assassin and all of his combat power was on the path of assassination. Hiding and assassinating was the way to go. However, the opponent could obviously sense their traces, which caused his combat power to be greatly reduced. Why? Is it hard to choose? But self-destructing is useless, because I will kill you before you self-destruct. Just like now. As soon as he finished speaking, the broken spear in Yukong's hand flashed with a bloody light. Holding the broken spear, he did not turn around and stabbed backward. This stab was no longer a silent stab. Instead, it made a sound. With this stab, the void rumbled as a large hole was pierced through. In front of the large hole was another black-robed man who had been pierced through by the broken spear. His eyes were wide open and filled with shock. Puff! The broken spear was pulled out from the man in black's chest, and a hot blood arrow spurted out. Before the blood arrow landed on Yukong's body, his figure had already disappeared. When he appeared again, he was already more than 100 meters away. His strange speed was like teleportation, and the broken spear in his hand continued to stab forward. Just like before, a bloody light flashed, and a crazy energy surged. The void was pierced directly, and another man in black was blasted out by the force, dying a violent death. Previously, he had already killed 6 people, and everyone thought that the hidden men in black were all dead. They did not expect him to kill another 2, and this time the killing method he displayed was thunderous and decisive, shocking everyone. After killing the 2 men, Yukong turned around again. Everyone was shocked to find that his expression had changed. His face was cold, and his pair of black eyes had become sharp and cold. His gaze swept across the crowd like a bolt of cold lightning. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. In the end, the young man's cold eyes landed on the black-clothed man. When he looked at the black-clothed man again, the mask on his face was already drenched in cold sweat. His eyelids were trembling, and there was obvious fear in his eyes. Kill yourself or be killed. Chen looked at the man in black. His voice returned to normal, and his eyes turned cold. In front of tens of thousands of barbarian cultivators, Lu Mingyong was asked to choose the method of death. The black-robed man could be said to have personally experienced Lu Mingyong's humiliation. However, Chen's methods completely restrained him. His heart was filled with fear, and at this moment he couldn't summon any thoughts of assassination. At this moment he turned his gaze and saw the dozen or so Dan primary realm barbarians in the distance. His frightened expression slowly disappeared, and he said coldly, "What are you still doing here? Kill him." Hearing the black-robed man's words, the expressions of the dozen Dan Yuans changed. Not to mention attacking, they didn't even dare to move. What kind of joke was this? The other party had killed 8 Danyuans in 8 moves, and they were all hidden assassins. With such battle prowess, who would dare to attack? What? Are you going to defy the orders of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion? The black-robed man was frightened and didn't dare to attack. He could only exert pressure on them. He said coldly he is only in the Zephyr realm. The reason why he could kill the hidden assassins was because he had the means to counter their concealment. His true battle prowess is not strong. You have so many Danyuans. Although the Zephyr realm was only 1 step away from the Danyuans, the difference in battle prowess between those who had not taken this step and those who had taken this step was many times greater. The two were not at the same level at all. The black-robed man's explanation was well-founded and easily convincing. After all, he was only in the Zephyr realm, and they had more than a dozen Danuans, so they were more confident. Therefore, the fearful Danuans were emboldened. Spiritual energy began to surge around their bodies. Holding their Dan weapons, they mustered up their courage and rushed towards Zichin. More than a dozen Danuans rushed towards a Zephyr realm cultivator. More than 10,000 cultivators stared at the sky with their eyes wide open, afraid to miss any details of the battle. Then they saw a scene that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. The Zephyr realm cultivator stood in the air with a blood-red broken spear in his hand. Facing the attacks of more than a dozen Danuans, he didn't move. Just when everyone thought that he knew he was no match for them and was waiting for death, he moved. He took a step to the left and dodged the attack of a Danuans. At the same time, the broken spear in his hand pierced out. It turned into a streak of blood-red light and pierced the body of the Danuans. Then he took a step to the right and dodged two attacks by a hair's breadth. Then he pierced out again and put away the spear. The opponent's attack was simple, direct, and easy to understand. In the eyes of the crowd, he was walking in the air. Every step to the left, he would stab out once. Every step to the right, he would stab again. Such a simple walking and assassination method was something they all understood and knew. However, the more they understood how difficult this simple walking was. This was because he was walking in the midst of the destructive attacks of the Danuans. Once he took a wrong step, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. The opponent's seemingly simple walking actually contained a kind of extreme speed. This kind of speed left the crowd in the dust. At the same time, those old fellows who were still in the Liu family were also extremely shocked. Under the simple walking and assassination, these previously incomparably powerful Danuans were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. One by one, their chests were pierced and they fell to the ground. In the eyes of many cultivators who didn't know what was going on, these Danuans were purposely sending themselves to the tip of the opponent's spear. It was purely suicide. The opponent's broken spear clearly stopped there, and they could have dodged it by taking a step back. However, they chose to move forward, automatically sending their chests to the tip of the spear. If this wasn't courting death, what was it? Such a strange scene puzzled many people. Moreover, this kind of thing that defied common sense made many cultivators feel so frustrated that they wanted to vomit blood. They didn't know that this was caused by the oppressive atmosphere of the battle in the sky. After easily stabbing a dozen times in the air, there were only 3 figures left in the sky. One was Lu Mingyong, who looked shocked after stopping his bleeding. The other was the youth in the air, Zichin. The last one was the middle-aged man with thick eyebrows, who was the leader of the martial ancestor. As for the assassin from the Heavenly Slayer Pavilion, he had disappeared at some point. He must have run away. The youth in the air, Zichin, suddenly turned his head. His cold eyes looked at a certain spot in the sky, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Choosing to run away is choosing to be killed. I'll fulfill your wish. A monstrous, murderous aura surged wildly. He held the broken spear in his hand and threw it forward. Like a blood dragon, the broken spear dragged its long tail across the sky and then shot towards a certain spot in the void. Wherever the broken spear passed, a pitch-black crack appeared in the void. Boom! At the place where the broken spear hit, there was a loud explosion. A pitch-black hole appeared in the sky. In the hole, the man in black from before had his chest pierced by the broken spear. Then the broken spear continued to carry him forward until it hit the auction house in the center of the city. The last assassin in black was nailed to the square just like that. More than 20 primordial core realm cultivators had died in the hands of a single heavenly slayer. Such an unbelievable scene caused the heaven and earth to fall into a dead silence. Even the sound of breathing could not be heard. The last middle-aged man with thick eyebrows could not help but tremble. At this moment he wanted to run away, but for some reason he felt that his legs were not listening to him. "Do you know why I let you go?" Zichen turned and looked at the middle-aged man with thick eyebrows and said coldly. The middle-aged man with thick eyebrows was frightened and kept shaking his head. "Because I want you to die a slower death, my headmaster." Zichen's eyes flashed with a cruel smile. Everyone was puzzled by the way he addressed the headmaster, but the middle-aged man with thick eyebrows understood. His expression changed instantly because he used to be a headmaster of a small sect called the Nimbus Martial Ancestor. "The Supreme Elder taught me a move back then. Since you're here, I'll demonstrate it to you," Zichen said slowly, but there was an undisguised murderous intent in his voice. You're Zichen." The middle-aged man with thick eyebrows changed drastically and let out a cry of horror. "Zichen, Zichen." His cry of surprise attracted the attention of more than 10,000 cultivators below. After this reminder, they finally remembered this familiar and strange young man. Zichen, the Nimbus Martial Ancestor, Zichen of the past, the Zichen who stirred up the situation in this area, the Zichen who created countless miracles. Amidst the cries of surprise below, Zichen sneered. "That's right, I'm Zichen. Today I'm going to clean up the Nimbus Martial Ancestor, avenge the disciples of the Nimbus Martial Ancestor, the head of the Punishment Hall, and the Supreme Elder." Zichen had already learned about what happened back then from Miaokong. It was all because of this middle-aged man with thick eyebrows. He was the one who leaked the information. Otherwise, the Martial Ancestor wouldn't have hesitated for 20 years before suddenly killing the Nimbus Martial Ancestor and the Supreme Elder. The middle-aged man with thick eyebrows' expression changed drastically. His mouth was wide open as if he wanted to explain or beg for mercy. But under a thunderbolt, all his voices were drowned out. Thunderbolt Finger. It wasn't the Thunderbolt Finger that was known as the Thunder Clan's ultimate skill, but the early Xiantian battle skill. But even if it was a Xiantian battle skill, it was still extremely terrifying when Zichen used it. This is the battle skill the Supreme Elder obtained from the Holy Burial Ground. It's also what the Martial Ancestor has always wanted. Today, I'll let you have a taste of it. The thunderbolt fell on the middle-aged man with thick eyebrows. Endless thunderbolt energy began to wreak havoc on his body. But after all, it wasn't the strongest Thunderbolt Finger. This attack didn't kill the middle-aged man, but only charred him black and smoking. This was also the result that Zichen wanted. Such scum naturally had to be slowly tortured to death. Therefore, amidst the screams, Zichen raised his hand and shot out thunderbolts, slowly tormenting the middle-aged man with thick eyebrows. The middle-aged man with thick eyebrows was shocked and frightened. Back when he was in the Zephyr realm, Zichen was just a true energy realm cultivator who didn't even qualify to enter the intersect. He couldn't be more ordinary and couldn't enter his eyes. Chapter 643. Zichen used 18 Thunderbolt Fingers to torture Bushy Eyebrows to death. His shrill screams sent chills down everyone's spine. Compared to the other inner core cultivators, Bushy Eyebrows died a much more miserable death. His entire body was charred black as charcoal as he fell from the sky. His body was torn into pieces, and he died without a complete corpse. Looking at the dismembered corpse, Zichen's face was ice cold. For his own selfish reasons, he had harmed the lives of thousands of people in the spiritual martial sect. Even if this kind of person died 10 times more miserably, it would still not be enough. The inner core cultivators from the martial ancestor, the Gung family, and the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion were all killed by Zichen alone. Although there were still many cultivators here without inner core cultivators, how could they fight this battle? Where are the cultivators from our family? Didn't we already send the signal? Why aren't they here yet? A voice came from below. This voice came from the mouth of the Yukong. The signal was also sent by him. The other Yukong were also very confused. According to the original plan, after the city fell, the cultivators would use their power to break through the gate of the Lu family and kill the people of the Lu family. However, it had been so long. The cultivators with power should have already appeared. Buzz. The blood-colored broken spear that nailed the black-clothed man suddenly began to vibrate. Then it turned into a bloody light and flew back. However, when it returned, the broken spear suddenly swooped down and rushed towards the dozens of Yukong. Puff! Puff! The broken spear pierced through the bodies of the Yukong, and blood splattered everywhere. One by one, the Yukong fell down in shock. When the broken spear returned and landed in Zichen's hand without a drop of blood on it, the Yukong were all killed. Without the inner core cultivators, and now even the Yukong were all dead. These cultivators' faces were filled with fear, and they were not confident anymore. At this moment, Zichen, who was in the sky, shouted coldly, "Kill all these reckless people. Kill!" He was not the leader of the Lu family, but at this moment his words were more effective than Lu Mingyong's. After he finished speaking, the cultivators of the Lu family were filled with endless fighting spirit. They roared and attacked the enemy cultivators. He was full of confidence, and his fighting spirit was high. Everyone felt that even his strength had suddenly increased by a lot. Without the support of the powerful cultivators, the morale of the martial ancestor and the cultivators of the Gung family was low. Less than 70% of their strength was left. As soon as the battle started, they showed signs of defeat and began to frantically retreat. The more the Lu clan cultivators fought, the braver they became. Everywhere they went, they left behind a large number of corpses. In this battle, because of Zichen's sudden appearance, they had turned defeat into victory. In the past, they would never have dared to imagine that a single person could influence the outcome of a battle. As for the defeated forces, the experts that they had been relying on all along ran into Tyrant and the others who had just arrived. When the two sides met, there was no need for words. Naturally, they started fighting. After the battle began, the martial ancestor was shocked to discover that not only were there many primordial Dan experts, but their battle prowess was also extremely terrifying. Seeing their experts fall one by one, the other side had no choice but to use their trump cards. Originally, they wanted to use their trump cards to attack the Lu clan, but they had no choice but to use it here. Trump cards were existences that surpassed elixir soldiers. In the barbarian land, there were very few of them. On average, each major force would have one. This was also a proof that they could ensure the continuation of their forces. The martial ancestors' trump card was like a sharp sword. As soon as it appeared, a monstrous, ferocious aura surged. Before it even launched an attack, the void was already trembling and distorting. Just when the existence with the trump card thought that he could kill all the enemies with his trump card, he was shocked to find that the group of people opposite him had two items that could block the powerful attack of his trump card. One of them was a demon-subduing pestle that emitted golden light and surged with endless Buddhist power. When the trump card slashed on it, it could only make a clanging sound, but it could not break the opponent. What the hell? The primordial Dan experts' eyes were filled with disbelief. It should be known that a trump card that surpassed elixir soldiers could break an elixir soldier with one slash. However, today not only did the golden demon-subduing pestle block the attack of his trump card, the other one was a pitch-black long stick covered with mysterious runes. It also blocked the attack of his trump card. The dignified martial ancestor's trump card could not destroy two mere elixir soldiers. This was inconceivable and extremely strange. However, as the fierce battle continued, the other side once again discovered a shocking fact. Even with his trump card, he was no match for the joint attack of the two and was about to be suppressed. After being suppressed, he would be injured and then killed. Therefore, this discovery made him shudder with fear. When he saw that the number of Elixir Prime experts on his side was decreasing, he called out and fled. The experts of the martial ancestor, who originally wanted to destroy the Lu clan with their trump cards, all ran away just like that. The monk and the devil ape did not chase after them. With their trump cards, they could not kill them in a short time. At most, they could only suppress them. Therefore, the group of people flew toward Yongchi City. On the way, they happened to see the martial ancestors' forces and the cultivators of the Gun clan being defeated. The battle should be over. Seeing that they no longer had the will to fight, the monk and the rest did not continue to attack. Instead, they went straight to Yongchi City. After arriving, the people of the Lu clan welcomed Ziqin and the rest with the highest ceremony. During this time, all the experts of the Lu clan showed up and were led by the Lu clan master to personally express their gratitude. This time, if Ziqin did not turn the tide, the Lu clan and Yongchi City would have suffered great losses. It was very likely that they would be wiped out. In this battle, the Lu clan had obtained a complete victory. They pursued the Lu clan for dozens of miles. Countless cultivators from both sides were killed or injured, and they were utterly defeated. When they returned, the entire Yongchi City was celebrating. As for Ziqin, Tyrant, and Wu Lu, they were discussing matters with the Lu clan master and the others. The people of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion have not made a move yet. Today is the first time they have made a move since their comeback. Before this, all the battles were initiated by these major forces. They have become the lackeys of the assassins, the Lu clan master said. The battles in this year were mainly battles of attrition. There were not many true Inner Core Realm battles. The Battle of Inner Core Realm only started recently. Today, the Lu clan suffered the most losses. Of course, compared to the 3 major forces, they only lost 6 Inner Core Realm cultivators. This was nothing compared to the losses of the other parties. The Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion did not make a move because they want to occupy this area without any effort, the Qin clan master said. He had already led his clan to join the Lu clan and fight side by side. How many Inner Core Realm cultivators are left here? Ziqin asked. Our 2 forces have 28 Inner Core Realm cultivators, the Lu clan master said. Only 20 Inner Core Realm cultivators? Even with our people, we can't conquer the entire barbarian land. Ziqin frowned and murmured, What, conquer the entire barbarian land? Everyone's eyes widened when they heard this. They had so many Inner Core Realm cultivators, but they couldn't even guarantee that they could defend this place, let alone conquer the barbarian land. This was something they didn't even dare to think about before. I've already thought about it when I came here. If the barbarian land wants to rise in the southern region, they must be united. So, only by conquering this place and unifying this place will there be hope for this place to rise. Ziqin's words shocked everyone. To make this place rise in the southern region, this goal was too big and too far away. It was far beyond their scope of understanding. Ziqin, how many people did you bring this time? The Lu clan master asked. More than 40 Inner Core Realm cultivators. But if we fight fiercely, we should be able to kill about 200 Inner Core Realm cultivators. Ziqin said directly. He didn't even think about it before answering. This wasn't bragging, but confidence. This was because there were 30 death warriors among the 40 Inner Core Realm cultivators. Moreover, he, the monk, the devil ape, Longhu, and the spirit-devouring rat had the combat power to kill Inner Core Realm cultivators. As for the number of 200, Ziqin purposely lowered it because he didn't want to scare them off. But even this purposely low number gave everyone huge shock. They couldn't help but reevaluate Ziqin. Clearly, Ziqin's return this time not only gave him the combat power of a sect leader, but also the status and power of a sect leader. Now, Ziqin was no longer alone. Instead, he was the leader of a force. He was a sect master level big shot. After a moment of silence, the Lu clan master said, Even so, this won't do. The Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion has the Heavenly Slaughter Alliance behind them. No one knows how deep their waters are. I still suggest we defend this place first. The Qin clan master nodded. Now that the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion hadn't made a move, it wasn't wise for them to take the initiative to attack. Our only weakness is the amount of Inner Core Realm cultivators, which is the problem of tribulation avoidance pills. If I can provide everyone with unlimited resources and refined batches of tribulation avoidance pills, this battle shouldn't be difficult. You have the resources to refine tribulation avoidance pills. Everyone looked at Ziqin. Ziqin shook his head and said, "Although I don't have all the medicinal herbs recorded on it, I have many items with spiritual power. If I can find something that can replace those medicinal herbs, refining tribulation avoidance pills shouldn't be a problem." After that, Ziqin took out many spiritual herbs and ancient beast blood essences. Ancient beast blood essences were extraordinary. This was what Ziqin was relying on. As expected, when they saw so many ancient beast blood essences, the Qin clan people's eyes widened. Then they called over the alchemists of the clan and began to research on how to refine tribulation avoidance pills. As for the Liu clan, Ziqin took out many refined elixir weapons and distributed them with inner core realm cultivators. As for using the ancient beast blood essences to refine tribulation avoidance pills, it was obviously not the time yet. To discuss the matter of conquering the entire savage land, he naturally had to find the Wang clan to discuss it. Ziqin asked about the Wang clan situation. As expected, the Wang clan, which had inherited battle skills, had a strong foundation. Currently, there was no news of them being breached. However, they probably wouldn't last long because the ones attacking them were the Tsang and Li clans and the Chu clan. Perhaps there were also assassins from the Heavenly Slayer Pavilion, the Tsang and Li clans. Hearing this, Ziqin's lips curled into a cold smile. If he wanted to go to the Wang clan to support them, he had to pass through Tsangli City. I wonder if I can take down Tsangli City. Ziqin suddenly sneered. Ziqin, what are you going to do? Several people asked nervously. I'm going to take a look around Tsangli City. After so many years, I'll see how many experts their clan has. Ziqin smiled coldly. Chapter 644. Time was of the essence. In the early morning of the next day, Ziqin went to Tsangli City alone. About half a day later, Tyrant and the others would catch up with him. Flying at a high speed, Tsangli City was already in sight. Now that there were frequent battles, it was hard for the mortals. Some rogue cultivators also had nowhere to go. In these two big cities, other than the Qin clan of Danyang City and the Liu clan of Yongqi City, other than the forces that had originally relied on them to survive, the rest of the rogue cultivators and many merchants had fled early when they heard that a great disaster was coming. Such a big city seemed to be crowded, but whether it was the popularity or the prosperity, it was much worse than before. Some of the rogue cultivators who escaped were forcibly captured by the big forces as fighting force, while the others were looking for a place to settle down and would pay a high price to enter some stable big cities. Tsangli and Tsangli families were currently waging war on Yunxia City. Yunxia City could only defend and had no power to fight back. Under such a strong fighting force, naturally no one would attack them. Therefore, Tsangli City was safe. So many rogue cultivators gathered in Tsangli City. Idiot, don't push one by one. At the city gate, the cultivators lined up in a long line, ready to enter the city. Damn it, where are the primordial stones? Want to enter the city without primordial stones? Get out of here. If you don't have 100 primordial stones, get out of here. How come there are only 99 primordial stones? Where is the other one? Get out. The guards at the city gate shouted angrily, repeating day after day. Soon, because the cultivators wanted to enter the city without primordial stones, a group of Xiantian guards came forward to beat a true element realm rogue cultivator. The rogue cultivator was strong, but he did not fight back. He just lay there and let them kick and beat him. These guards kicked and beat him while cursing, while the other rogue cultivators looked on indifferently. After venting his anger for a while, a Xiantian realm guard stepped forward, grabbed the true element realm cultivator, and threw him far away. True element realm cultivator, you don't even have 100 primordial stones to enter the city. Pauper, get out of here. Next time I see you, I will beat you to death. The The Xiantian guard cursed and went back. This was a common phenomenon caused by the continuous wars. Now, to enter the city, one had to pay primordial stones, and they were all low-grade primordial stones. 100 primordial stones per person. For the current cultivators of this barbaric land, 100 low-grade primordial stones was a relatively large number. Many cultivators could not afford it. Now that there were frequent wars, the Tsang and Li families were powerful existences. Therefore, even if the guards were only at the Xiantian realm, they were so arrogant that everyone dared to provoke them. The true essence boundary, cultivator stood up and patted the dirt off his body. Then he turned around and left. He had been beaten up by the guards who were weaker than him. But after he stood up, not only did he not say any malicious words, he didn't even dare to show the slightest dissatisfaction. The rest of the cultivators were already used to this, and they all paid their primordial stones, striving to enter the city as soon as possible. Suddenly, a cry of surprise sounded. Everyone raised their heads and saw an expert who could fly in the sky. He didn't look like he was going to fly straight into Tsangli City. Flight control. There's actually someone who wants to fly directly into the city through flight control. The figure in the horizon approached from the distance, not stopping at all. Sure enough, it was going to directly enter the city. This caused a small commotion. Idiot, get down here and pay the entrance fee. The Xiantian realm guard raised his head and scolded the figure. The figure was stunned by the scolding. He stopped and lowered his head to look at the guard. What are you looking at? I'm talking to you, idiot who can fly in the sky. Quickly pay the entrance fee or get lost. The Xiantian realm guard shouted arrogantly. In the past year, there had been many people who wanted to use this method to enter the city through flight control. Therefore, this was not the first time the guard had scolded someone. He had long been accustomed to the inexplicable pleasure brought by cursing this kind of expert. What did you say? A young man descended from the sky. Pay the entrance fee of 100 primordial stones or get lost. Damn it, it's just flight control. Pretend that I didn't see it. The guard was still arrogant. The young man frowned. This Xiantian realm guard seemed to be too arrogant. Idiot, you still dare to frown. If you don't want to enter the city, then get lost. The young man didn't get angry at such a disrespectful attitude, but this Xiantian realm guard was the first to get angry and scolded him again. Moreover, this attitude was not directed at flight control. It was obvious that he was scolding a pig. The young man shook his head and his expression turned cold. You're just in Xiantian. I didn't want to lower myself to your level, but who knew that you'd get worse? What? You still want to fight? You dare to fight here? I think you're courting death. The guard was still, fearless. In the next moment, the other guards gathered and stood side by side with the guard. They stared coldly at the young man. It wasn't because they were loyal, but because they didn't believe that the other party would dare to fight here. You're really despicable. You're just like a fox who uses the tiger's might to intimidate others. The young man's voice was cold, and there was a hint of coldness in his eyes. Humph, you. The guard snorted, and the arrogance on his face grew. However, before he could continue scolding, his head exploded without any warning. Fresh blood splattered everywhere. Without seeing how flight control attacked, a guard was killed. Such a scene shocked all the rogue cultivators. They didn't expect this flight control to be so impatient and dared to kill people from the Tsang and leave families here. Since the guards were so despicable, it was natural that they would encounter a violent temper. However, any cultivator who dared to fight here, regardless of their realm, would end up dead. What nerve you have! You dare to kill people here? Today will be the day of your death. The other guards that were covered in blood coldly said. Facing these cowardly rogue cultivators every day, they had developed a habit of being arrogant, causing them to forget about their fear. In their opinion, this flight control would soon regret his impulsive actions and kneel down to beg for mercy. Is that so? Since I'm going to die, then you don't have to live anymore. Flight control sneered. Such a scene was very different from what they had imagined. They knew that they had encountered a fugitive. The group of guards felt a chill in their hearts and finally felt fear. With fear in their hearts, they quickly retreated. At the same time, they shouted towards the city, "Guards, flight control is killing people." Flight control was naturally Zichen. He wanted to enter the city directly to kill Dan Yuan, but these guards provoked him first, so he had to start killing from here. Murderous intent surged in his eyes. His cold eyes swept towards the guards who were fleeing in fear. He didn't make a move, but the heads of the guards exploded one by one. He strode forward and walked into the city from the city gate. Everywhere he passed, the frightened guards would explode. Behind Zichen, all the rogue cultivators looked at this strange scene in shock. The guards' exclamation attracted even more powerful cultivators. They shouted angrily and flew towards the city gate. However, those who came were all guards. At most, they were in the true energy realm. No matter how many of them came, they would only be courting death. Amidst the explosions, Zichen had already walked into the city. The passageway leading to the city gate was already littered with corpses. The rogue cultivators behind him also rushed in with a whoosh. Their eyes were filled with joy as they watched Zichen kill. How dare you behave so atrociously in Songli City? More and more guards died. In a moment, the number had exceeded 100. Such a big commotion naturally attracted a powerful cultivator. It was flight control. He flew over from the horizon with a cold expression on his face. The early stage of flight control. Zichen sneered and pointed at the other party. This was the first real attack he had made since he came to this position. As his finger fell, a golden sword aura left his body and fell on flight control like lightning. Poof! Blood splattered. The golden sword aura penetrated flight control's body. The other party didn't even make a sound and fell on his back. The death of a flight control from a big force caused the crowd to exclaim. Obviously, this was the rhythm of something big. There were many powerful cultivators in big forces and clans. When one flight control died, there would naturally be a second and a third. The sound of breaking air came from the horizon. More flight control arrived. This time there were 3 of them, but except for one who was in the middle stage of flight control, the rest were in the early stage of flight control. It's better if such nobodies don't come. Zichen's cold voice echoed in the sky. Then he pointed again. This time he pointed 3 times in a row. 3 golden sword auras flew out from his fingers and fell on the 3 flight control like lightning. The situation was the same as before. The sword auras penetrated the bodies of the 3 people. Blood splattered. The 3 of them didn't have time to scream. They fell on their backs and lost their lives. 4 flight control were killed with a raise of his hand. The rogue cultivators were obviously shocked. However, with the Tsongli and Tsongli clans flying out of flight control, this shock continued and became more and more intense. From the middle stage of flight control to the late stage of flight control, and then to the great completion of flight control. Powerful cultivators of this level came one after another, but their ending was no different from the first one. They were all killed with one blow. Oh my God, who is this person? He's so terrifying. He swept away all the flight control with just a raise of his hand. Haha, that idiot guard is used to being arrogant. He finally attracted a great enemy for his clan by sacrificing his life. Seeing Zichen's powerful combat strength, there were all kinds of discussions in the crowd, but they were undoubtedly gloating. It was just that they didn't know how long this flight control could last, because the current Songli city was no longer the same as before. There were many master-level cultivators here. Sure enough, just when the death count of the flight control exceeded 20, a powerful aura emerged from the direction of the Tsongli clan. This was a master-level cultivator. The aura spread out and directly covered half of the city. With a roar, all the cultivators in the city trembled. Back then, when Zichen first came here, he was almost knocked out by a few roars from these existences. What happened back then was still vivid in his mind. However, after several years, he was also able to kill these existences. The master-level cultivator's aura was extremely terrifying. He came from the direction of the Tsongli clan and rushed directly towards Zichen. You dare to behave atrociously in Tsongli City? Die. Sensing that Zichen was in the flight control realm, he didn't even use a pill weapon and just rushed towards Zichen. A master-level cultivator has appeared. Is this flight control finished? Under everyone's gaze, the flight control in the sky turned into a light and rushed toward the master-level cultivator. Oh my God, he's going to break through to the master level. Chapter 645. Die. As the two rays of light crossed each other, the ice-cold voice of the elder reverberated between heaven and earth. Just when everyone thought that Yukong had been killed in one strike, they saw the elder of the Tsong family actually fly a few hundred meters away before falling to the ground with his head facing upwards. Bang! After landing heavily, the other party did not get up, and there was no sound at all. He was dead. His vitality was gone. A sovereign was killed by a single blow from Yukong. Looking at Yukong in the sky again, there was no other reaction except for his cold eyes. As for his body, there was not even a single wound. Yukong's Danyuan was unscathed. Everyone was shocked to the extreme. After seeing this scene, the Li family's Danyuan, who had just rushed out of his house, was obviously frightened. He turned around and fled without saying a word. Thunderbolt finger. Zichen shouted and pointed at the other party with one hand. Under this finger, the void broke open silently. A golden finger with a terrifying aura pointed at the Li family's Danyuan. Boom! The energy in the golden finger surged, and the Li family's Danyuan's body exploded under this finger. Two sovereign were killed. Heaven and earth suddenly fell into a dead silence. It's you. How dare you come to Tsongli City and behave so atrociously? In this dead silence, an old voice sounded. I'm here to settle accounts with you. Why? Do you still want to activate the Great City Barrier Array? Zichen sneered disdainfully. Activate the Great City Barrier Array? You're not worthy. Figures flashed in the sky, and cultivators appeared from the horizon. The aura around them was undoubtedly at the sovereign level. There were many people from the two families. In the end, they stopped at 14 people. Each family sent 7 people. They all had Dan weapons in their hands, and their killing intent was awe-inspiring. Looking at the 14 Danyuan, Zichen sneered, it seems that you all benefited from the birth of the Calamity Avoidance Pill. Moreover, after becoming the lackeys of the Heavenly Slayer Pavilion, you all have Dan weapons and have become rich. Zichen, cut the crap. How dare you come to Tsongli City and behave so atrociously? Today is the day you die, a Dan Primordial Realm cultivator said coldly, his eyes flashing with hatred. Back then he was only flying in the air and was almost killed by Zichen. He had always hated Zichen, and the others had similar expressions. They had always been enemies. The name Zichen seemed to have a strange magic power, instantly causing a commotion in the crowd. We'll see who lives and who dies after the battle, Zichen said coldly. The other party had 14 primal core cultivators. Zichen immediately took out the broken spear. This was not because he was afraid of being outmatched, but because Zichen wanted to end the battle quickly. As soon as the blood-red broken spear appeared, the monstrous, baleful aura caused the expressions of the 14 people to change. Even though they were all Dan weapons, the quality of the broken spear in Zichen's hand was far superior to the ones in their hands. However, they had the advantage in numbers and were not afraid of Zichen. After a shout, a fierce battle broke out in an instant. 14 Dan Primordial Realm cultivators rushed toward Zichen together with their Dan weapons, attacking together. Their attacks were able to shatter the void, and black holes appeared one after another in the sky. A terrifying power swept out. Zichen held the broken spear and also rushed toward the other party, but in comparison his attacks were much simpler. Dodging, throwing out the spear, retracting the spear, all in one attack. Every time he attacked, he made 3 simple movements that were easy to understand and could be seen clearly by everyone. Then, as if he was demonstrating to the world, Zi-chan repeated the same movements 14 times. However, every time he threw out the spear, it would definitely hit the chest of a Dan primordial realm cultivator. In total, he attacked 14 times. Each attack was decisive and direct, without any hesitation. 14 times, 14 attacks. 14 light sounds rang out in the sky. The previously arrogant grandmasters had their chests pierced by the broken spear after 14 attacks. They turned into corpses and fell to the ground. The originally silent world with only surging energy became deathly silent once more. Even the old voice from the great factions did not continue to appear. Why? Is there no one else from the Tsang and Li families? Zi-chin was the only one holding the spear in the sky. There were no more enemies around him. He looked at the 2 forces with a mocking expression. Weren't you very arrogant back then? Where are the Dan primordial realm cultivators of your families? You can continue to send them out, or you can directly activate the Great City Defense Array. In this deathly silent heaven and earth, only Zi-chen's voice rang out. A few years ago, in order to kill him, they had activated the Great City Defense Array. The scene was dead silent, and the Tsang and Li families did not make any moves. You are not making a move or using your trump cards. Are you waiting for me to make a move? Zi-chin sneered again. This time, naturally, no one answered. In a situation where no one answered, Zi-chen actually held the broken spear and rushed toward the 2 forces. Zi-chen first arrived at the Tsang family. However, when he arrived, the entire Tsang family was already sealed by a huge energy shield. They had actually chosen to defend. Zi-chin stood in the air, looking down at the Tsang family within the shield. What? You are a great force with 10,000 years of inheritance. Are you going to be a coward in front of me? Zi-chen constantly mocked, but the Tsang family did not respond at all. Clearly, they had made up their minds to choose to defend. Open for me, Zi-chen shouted, holding the broken spear and fiercely thrusting it at the energy shield. Loud explosions rang out continuously, and surging energy surged. However, the effect was minimal. The energy shield's defense was extremely strong. In Sanli City, many rogue cultivators were already dumbfounded. Zi-chen had actually suppressed 2 great forces with his own strength. Moreover, he had made the 2 arrogant forces choose to defend. Such a scene was hard to believe. Boom! Boom! Amidst the violent surging energy, the energy shield still had a strong defense. Zi-chin, who could not break it, could only give up. He left the Tsang family and went to the Li family. The situation of the 2 families was almost the same. They had both chosen to defend. Outside, Zi-chin was attacking the energy shield in an extremely provocative way. In the 2 families, the primordial core cultivators were also burning with anger. However, the family had ordered them not to go out and attack. Old ancestor, let me go out. I will go and kill him. After hearing the news, a mid-stage primordial core cultivator of the Tsang family came out from his seclusion. Crazy killing intent surged around him, and he was about to rush out and kill Zi-chin. No one can go out. Zi-chin naturally came prepared this time. Going out is equivalent to suicide. A dignified voice sounded. He is only in the air. What are you afraid of? The mid-stage primordial core cultivator was unconvinced. Yes, he is in the air. However, he is a sky-riding warrior. If he can easily kill an early-stage primordial core cultivator, then he can naturally kill a mid-stage primordial core cultivator. You will die if you go out. Then I will go out and kill him. The mid-stage primordial core cultivator was unwilling to give up. If the foundation was still there, I would have made a move. The old ancestor's voice sounded very dissatisfied. Obviously, he also felt aggrieved. The Li family situation was the same as the Tsang family's. Their foundation was also not there. Therefore, in the face of Zichen, they chose to endure. Zichen's provocation was fruitless, and the two families did not appear. Zichen vaguely guessed something. The two families were obviously going to be cowards. There was no point in continuing to waste time here. Therefore, Zichen decided to leave. However, before he left, he inadvertently saw a few unique buildings in the city. Fine. I will collect some interest first. Zichen sneered. Then he rushed to the tallest building. Inside were the properties of the Tsang and Li families. Although Zichen did not put these things in his eyes, this did not prevent him from looting the wealth of these properties. After all, this would cause the two families to lose some money. With a loud bang, a huge hole was blasted open in the middle of the building. Zichen entered in a flash, and under the terrified and trembling expressions of the cultivators from the two clans, he began to loot everything that could be exchanged for origin stones. Oh my God! Zichen is actually looting the properties of the two big forces. After seeing what Zichen was doing, all the rogue cultivators were stunned. In such a large city like Tsangli City, Zichen was like entering an uninhabited land as he began to plunder all the properties of the Tsang and Li families. During this period, Zichen crazily collected spirit weapons, spirit herbs, and primordial stones. When the news spread to the two families, the old ancestors of their families were so angry that they vomited blood. Not only did he behave atrociously in their territory, he even started to loot their properties. No, this is too much. Angry roars resounded between heaven and earth. The experts of the two families finally could not sit still. This was a blatant slap in the face. If they did not fight back, the reputation of the two families would be ruined today. Therefore, the two powerful mid-stage primordial core experts did not listen to advice and rushed out from their families. One for each family. Zichen, die for me. Go to hell. The two mid-stage primordial core experts held their elixir weapons and launched their most violent attacks at Zichen from the left and right. A violent aura surged around them, and the entire Tsangli city trembled under this aura. Many rogue cultivators collapsed under this aura. Boom, boom. When the two attacks landed, two loud explosions resounded between heaven and earth. In the midst of these explosions, the Tsangli city trembled even more violently. Many buildings collapsed, and many cultivators fainted because of these two explosions. However, there were still more cultivators who were awake. They tried to control the primordial energy in their bodies and stood up from the ground. Then they raised their heads and looked at the turbulent, destructive energy in the sky. The destructive energy in the sky was turbulent, and the void was torn open one after another. Everyone's vision was blocked, and they could not see anything. However, in the next moment, two figures fell from the destructive energy. These two were the mid-stage primordial core experts, but now they had become corpses. After they fell to the ground, they were motionless. The primordial core, spiritual rings, and elixir weapons in their bodies were long gone. Zichen killed two mid-stage primordial core experts with one blow. His powerful combat strength shocked everyone present. When he emerged from the destructive energy unscathed, the cultivators present were so shocked that they could not say a word. The experts of the two families who saw this scene through the light shield were also shocked and did not speak for a long time. After killing the two of them, the looting also came to an end. Zichen swaggered out of Tsangli City just like that. Half a day later, Tyrant and the others arrived smoothly. They flew over Tsangli City and went straight to Yunxia City. However, when they flew over, they saw that the protective light shields of the two families were still there and had not been removed. Chapter 646. Amidst the continuous battles, the efficiency of news transmission through various channels was far worse than before. The news of Zichen bringing a group of Dan primary cultivators back in a domineering manner did not spread widely due to the lockdown of the war. At least when Zichen went to Tsangli City, the two families did not know. Therefore, they sent out a large number of Jindan masters and all their resources to encircle the Wang family. But under Zichen's strong attack, they suffered a big loss. Outside Yunxia City, the three forces of Tsang, Li, and Chu had gathered. The total number of Jindan masters in the three families was more than 100. In addition, there were many people in the air, densely packed. This was the main force of their families. All of them were sent to attack Yunxia City, causing the families to be empty. The city was in sight. At this moment, the leaders of the three families were already discussing what to do after attacking Yunxia City. These three were the strongest in their families. Their strength was in the late stage of Jindan, and they all had resources. It was obvious that they were determined to take down the Wang family. It won't be long before the city's defense formation is broken. We must kill the Wang family in this battle and completely annihilate them, said the late-stage Jindan master of the Tsang family. This time we brought more than 60% of the Jindan masters in our families. The three families together have more than 100 Jindan masters. How can the Wang family resist such a battle force? This battle will be the last battle in the history of the Wang family, said the master of the Chu family confidently. They were the strongest in their families, and they all had resources. They wanted to destroy the Wang family in one battle. This method was much more direct than when the martial ancestor and the Gung family attacked Yongqi City. Moreover, there were assassins in the dark who were good at assassination. The destruction of the Wang family was a foregone conclusion. Suddenly, a figure flew from the distance. It was a black-clothed Jindan master assassin. As an assassin, he should be hiding, but at this moment he was flying rapidly in the air. Things have changed. Retreat quickly. Before he arrived, the assassin's voice was heard. What? The three masters all stood up at once and looked at the assassin in disbelief. Master wants you to retreat quickly. Go back to your own forces and wait for further notice, the assassin repeated. Why? Yunxia City is about to be conquered. The day of the city's destruction is right in front of us, the master of the Li family said unhappily. I don't know the specifics, but this is what the Lord wants, the assassin said indifferently. We've been fighting for so long, and we've suffered heavy casualties. We're about to break into the city, but Sir wants us to retreat at this time. The three of them were clearly unwilling. The assassin glanced at the three of them and said, I don't know the exact reason, but there are rumors that an unknown force has suddenly entered the barbarian land and launched an attack on our side. Some forces have already suffered a great loss. What? The expressions of the three changed. This is just a rumor. It can't be confirmed yet, but it should be true. Sir must have his reasons for letting you all retreat at such a critical moment. The expressions of the three of them constantly changed. They simply could not understand why there would be a force marching into this area at this time. Retreat. After hesitating for a moment, they decided to retreat in the end. Currently, they could not go against the orders of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion, nor did they dare to. In Yunxia City, a dark blue energy shield had sealed off the entire city. Through the shield, Wang Zhenwei could clearly see that the enemy had many inner Dan experts, more than 100 early inner Dan experts with Dan weapons, and 3 late inner Dan experts. The impact of such a battle force on the Wang family was unimaginable. Every time he saw this team, Wang Zhenwei would feel a chill in his heart. More than 100 inner Dan experts. What a terrifying number. This thing should not have appeared. Back then, when I told them to destroy it directly, none of them agreed. Now, not only did they not use it, but they also brought a calamity to their family. Although the Wang family had some foundation and a lot of inner Dan experts, this was under the situation where they did not have calamity evasion pills. Now that the calamity evasion pills had appeared, all kinds of balance were broken. Their foundation was nothing. Once the city was breached, what awaited them was a battle to the death. Sir, look, they are retreating. Suddenly, an inner Dan expert pointed outside the shield and said, Retreating? Wang Zhenwei was absent-minded and did not notice this scene. Now that he looked up, it was indeed so. Why would they retreat for no reason? At this moment, not only was Wang Jinwei puzzled, but the others were also very puzzled. The city was about to be breached. Under such circumstances, not attacking immediately was already an act of mercy. Why would they retreat? Was there some conspiracy? However, the other side had more than 100 inner Dan experts and many experts. Moreover, the siege had reached this point. It seemed that there was no need to play tricks. With doubts, the Wang family quietly looked at the inner Dan experts in front of them who were beginning to retreat. The group had just retreated when they suddenly stopped in the air. After stopping, they did not turn back to look at Yunxia City. Instead, they looked ahead as if there was something there. What happened? Wang Jinwei and the others were confused. Passing by Tsanli City, Ziqin led a group of people straight to Yunxia City. As soon as they arrived, they saw the three forces preparing to retreat. Looking at the more than 100 inner Dan experts in front of them, plus a group of people who were flying in the air, Ziqin and the others slowed down. 3 late-stage inner Dan experts and more than 100 early-stage inner Dan experts. What a big deal. They really put in a lot of effort. Seeing the situation in front of them, Monk also gasped. Ziqin waved his hand. The group had already stopped, and the two sides faced each other. The 3 late-stage inner Dan experts on the other side should have a lot of resources in their hands, plus one with more than 100 inner Dan experts. This battle would not be easy for Ziqin and the others. Spread out. However, they had to fight even if it was not easy. Ziqin waved his hand again, and all the inner Dan experts spread out, ready to attack. After coming to the barbarian land for a few days, Ziqin's group had not suffered any losses. However, facing so many inner Dan experts today, it was obvious that there would be casualties. Is this that unknown force? There are only dozens of inner Dan experts and some who are flying in the air. Could they be the vanguard team? The 3 late-stage inner Dan experts in front of them looked straight at Ziqin and the others. Humph, they don't know what's good for them. They even put on a battle stance. Seeing that Ziqin's group had already spread out and entered a battle stance, the late-stage inner Dan experts showed obvious disdain. They are relying on their late-stage inner Dan experts. They definitely won't use their resources in the beginning. We have to take advantage of this time to launch the fiercest attack, Ziqin said in a deep voice. Tyrant and Devil Ape were already standing side by side with Ziqin, while Longhu, Spirit-Devouring Rat, Wild Wolf, Wu Lu, and the others stayed behind. Later, the 3 of us will launch the first round of attacks. Longhu and Spirit-Devouring Rat, pay attention to those assassins. Wild Wolf and Wu Lu, you guys have to be careful. If we can't hold them back and they attack you guys, don't resist and run immediately. Ziqin quickly sent a voice transmission to arrange the details of the battle. The group replied with voice transmissions. Just dozens of inner Dan experts. How dare they stop us? Are they courting death? The 3 late-stage inner Dan experts were disdainful. Of course. They did not forget to tell the people behind them to kill as much as they could when the battle started. We just need to cooperate with the assassins of the Heavenly Kill Pavilion to kill these inner Dan experts. We can't even kill them, a late-stage inner Dan expert mocked. At this moment, Ziqin and the other 2 moved. They turned into 3 beams of light and rushed over. 2 Yukongs and 1 inner Dan expert. There was a group of primordial Dan experts on the other side. There were more than 40 of them, but only 3 of them rushed out at this moment. Furthermore, there were 2 Yukong experts and 1 early-stage primordial Dan expert. Instead of sending out powerful experts, they sent out such a weak group of 3. The 2 sides were 1,000 meters apart. For Ziqin and the other 2, this distance could be covered in the blink of an eye. Therefore, while the 3 late-stage inner Dan experts were stunned, the 3 of them had already rushed over. Their speed suddenly increased, causing the late-stage inner Dan experts' expressions to change slightly. However, They did not care and raised their hands to attack. As late-stage Inner Dan experts, even a casual attack was extremely terrifying. The three of them did not block the attack directly. Instead, they dodged instantly. With a flash of light, the three of them dodged the three attacks. Then they went around the three late-stage Inner Dan experts and attacked the group of early-stage Inner Dan experts. Kill! As they had underestimated the enemy earlier, their group of Inner Dan experts was not separated. More than 100 Inner Dan experts were gathered together. Because there were early-stage Inner Dan experts in front, they did not pay attention to the three of them. Therefore, they were not prepared. At this moment, when they suddenly saw the three of them rushing over, they were more or less stunned. The demon subduing pestle, the broken spear, and the black rod appeared in an instant. Then, the three of them were like wolves rushing into a flock of sheep. Bang! Puff! In the time it took for blood to appear, 3 Inner Dan experts had already been hit. Their bodies fell from the sky, their vitality gone in an instant. Spread out quickly. By the time the 3 late-stage Inner Dan experts reacted and shouted, more than 10 Inner Dan experts had already fallen to the ground. However, the number was still increasing. Almost every second, more Inner Dan experts fell from the sky. Inside the light shield of Red Cloud City, Wang Jinwei and the others' eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Everyone's face looked as if they had seen a ghost. What's going on there? Are those falling Inner Dan experts? Wang Jinwei asked in disbelief. Yes, someone is killing Inner Dan experts. Beside him, the voice of one of Inner Dan experts was also trembling. It was too terrifying. Killing Inner Dan experts was like killing chickens, one after another. Damn it, spread out quickly. Spread out for me. The furious roars of the late-stage Inner Dan experts reverberated between heaven and earth. Naturally, this sound also reached Yinxia City. Then Wang Jinwei and the others saw more than 100 Inner Dan experts begin to frantically scatter, fleeing into the distance. As the Inner Dan experts scattered, they finally saw the existence of the Inner Dan experts. It was 2 humans and a humanoid beast. And when they looked at the 2 humans again, they actually looked so familiar. How is this possible? Wang Jinwei, who was already extremely shocked, was shocked again because he recognized Ziqin and the monk at a glance. At this moment, the 2 of them were happily killing each other. Even if the Inner Dan experts fled quickly, they were still chasing after them. In terms of speed, the 2 of them seemed to be faster, so even if the Inner Dan experts were scattering, they were still dying. However, compared to before, the speed of their deaths had slowed down. Die. After a moment of panic, the Inner Dan experts also reacted and began to launch effective counterattacks. 2 of the 3 late-stage Inner Dan experts rushed toward Ziqin and the others. Chapter 647. 2 of the 3 late-stage Primal Core experts rushed over, clearly not taking Ziqin and the other 2 seriously. Split up and kill. Ziqin heaved a sigh of relief. As long as they killed more Primal Core experts now, their losses in the subsequent battles would be minimized. Hence, the 3 of them split up instantly, transforming into 3 streams of light that rushed in 3 different directions. As for the 2 late-stage Primal Core experts, they could only chase after 2 of them. However, there were 3 of them, and they were all very fast. It was obviously unrealistic to chase after them immediately. Moreover, the 3 of them also had powerful combat strength under their extreme speed. Seeing their Primal Core experts dying one after another, the late-stage Primal Core experts were finally enraged. Hence, they no longer cared about their strength and identity, and directly took out their trump cards. As soon as they took out their trump cards, a terrifying aura surged. The surrounding space began to distort as the 2 trump cards were taken out together, causing the void to tremble. In the distant city, Wang Jinwei and the others saw this, and their expressions changed instantly. Die. The two of them shouted and slashed down with their trump cards. One of them was aimed at Zichen, while the other was aimed at Tyrant. The void was silently slashed open as a terrifying aura surged. The trump cards fell from the sky. Zichen and Tyrant did not dare to be careless as they turned around to face the enemy, Amitabha. Tyrant chanted the Buddhist mantra as the pure Buddhist power in his body continuously surged into the demon subduing pestle. The dazzling demon subduing pestle once again released a blinding golden light as holy and pure Buddhist power surged out. The entire demon subduing pestle expanded several times in an instant, carrying a rich Buddhist power that defied the heavens as it rushed towards the trump cards. Clang! An ear-piercing clang sounded in the sky as a terrifying aura surged. The demon subduing pestle was sent flying, but it blocked the terrifying attack of the trump cards. Seeing that the trump cards did not shatter the demon subduing pestle, the late-stage primal core experts of the Tsang family were clearly stunned. On the other side, the blood-colored broken spear in Zichen's hand also surged with an even more frenzied, killing intent. Boundless golden light surged from his body as his perfect body was fully displayed. Silver light flashed on his back as the heavenly thunder wings appeared. Then he transformed into a tricolored light with the spear in hand as he charged towards the second trump card. Boom! The three-colored light collided with the foundation, and a loud boom erupted. The entire void was torn apart by this energy. Zichen felt a turbulent energy surge out from the broken spear, and the broken spear nearly slipped out of his hand. Then a powerful force struck him, and Zichen's body was like a cannonball, slamming into the ground. Another rumble came from the ground, and a human-shaped crater appeared. The attack of a late-stage primal core cultivator was truly terrifying. Zichen was instantly injured, and when he flew out of the ground, there was already light golden blood flowing out of the corner of his mouth. What? Seeing that a zephyr had actually blocked the attack of the foundation and was only lightly injured, Li family's Dan Yuan was also shocked. Not only that, such a terrifying attack actually did not break the broken spear. The two of them looked at each other and saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. To be able to block the foundation attack without breaking, it was obvious that the toughness of the items in their hands was not weaker than the foundation attack. The fact that the two of them didn't manage to kill each other was out of their expectations. On the other side, the devil ape, who hadn't been attacked, continued to attack Dan Yuan. Every time the black rod fell, a Dan Yuan would be killed. Since the first attack didn't kill the enemy, they continued to attack. The two late-stage primal core cultivators attacked again with their foundation. Zichen and the other two attacked the three forces, slaughtering the Dan Yuan cultivators. On the other side, the assassins who had been hiding also rushed towards Long Hu and the others. Boom! However, before they could get close and enter the attack range, Long Hu's eyes were already filled with a cold light. He raised a pair of tiger claws high and directly used the void as the ground. Stomping hard, the tiger claws fell, and the void shook like the earth and then cracked. The cracks spread like a spider web. When the space was cracked, there was also a turbulent energy that spread out. The assassins who were hiding in the dark and trying to get close were shocked by this energy. At the same time, Long Hu's attack caused a violent energy shock, and the assassins who were shocked out coughed up blood and were injured. Their eyes were still filled with shock. They didn't expect that their concealment method could be detected in advance. As soon as they were shocked out, they suddenly felt a chill in their hearts. Relying on their instincts, they started to dodge. While they were dodging, they also saw a bright white light from the corner of their eyes that streaked across in front of them. Before they could rejoice that they reacted in time and dodged the sneak attack, their consciousness suddenly disappeared. Their bodies in the air lost the support of the energy and they fell from the sky. The sound of bodies falling to the ground was heard. Long Hu and the spirit-devouring rat's combined attack instantly killed 5 assassins. As for the other assassins who were following behind, seeing the scene, they also retreated in shock. At this moment, the third late-stage primal core cultivator rushed towards Long Hu and the others. Obviously, he was copying Zichen and using his strength to kill the weak first. Retreat. Seeing the advanced primal core stage cultivators charging towards them, Wild Wolf and Lu obeyed Zichen's instructions and instantly gave the order to retreat. Leading the group, they retreated quickly. Even Long Hu and the spirit-devouring rat retreated decisively at this moment. It's useless. Today, all of you will die. This late-stage primal core cultivator was from the Chu family. He emitted an endless cold aura, and his speed was even faster. Wild Wolf and the others all retreated, except for one primal core cultivator. This primal core cultivator, who walked out of the core formation pavilion, was the most ordinary one. Just as the Chu family's primal core cultivator rushed forward, his body began to glow, and a violent aura surged from his body. Boom! Just as the Chu family's primal core cultivator rushed forward, he turned into a beam of light and rushed up. While he was in the air, he self-detonated his primal core. The self-detonation of the primal core cultivator's energy created a huge black hole in the sky. This black hole was as black as ink and was filled with destructive power. It instantly swallowed the late-stage primal core cultivator. On the other side, the two late-stage primal core cultivators couldn't help but feel anxious. Using their primal core weapons, they were barely able to slow down the death of the primal core cultivators. Now, their only hope was that the Chu family's late-stage primal core cultivator could quickly slaughter the other party. However, this sudden self-detonation of the primal core cultivator scared the two of them. Without saying anything, they self-detonated. They had to reevaluate the strength of this group. Kill. Demon Ape. Kill to your heart's content. Zichen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and rushed out from the ground again. He turned into a tricolored light to block the attack. The demon ape used the doppelganger technique and split into dozens in an instant. After 5 of the doppelgangers were destroyed by the attack, the other doppelgangers chased after the fleeing primal core cultivators. In the black hole formed by the self-detonation of the primal core cultivator in the air, a terrifying aura suddenly surged. Then, a sky-piercing sword rushed out from it, cutting through the destructive power. The Chu family's primal core cultivator rushed out from it in a sorry state. The self-detonation of the early-stage primal core cultivator didn't hurt him, but the clothes on his body were torn and tattered by the self-detonation. Damn things, I must kill you all. The Chu family's primal core cultivator rushed out from the self-detonation, his face full of murderous intent. But before he could use his attack to sweep away the crowd, he saw another glowing primal core cultivator rushing toward him resolutely. Again, the Chu family's primal core cultivator couldn't help but stare. Boom! The second primal core cultivator self-detonated, and the second black hole swallowed him whole. This kind of self-detonation to block the late-stage primal core cultivator was obviously not a good idea, but it was the most effective way to reduce the number of primal core cultivators killed. Moreover, the longer this side resisted, the demon ape on the other side could kill several times the number of primal core cultivators who self-detonated. When the Chu family's primal core cultivator rushed out from the second self-detonation, the anger in his heart was burning to the extreme, but it was useless. On Zichen's side, there were 30 primal core cultivators who could make the decision to self-detonate, and there were only 2 of them. Boom! The third primal core cultivator also self-detonated, and the pitch-black crack spread again. On the other side, the late-stage primal core cultivators of the Tsang and Li families were in despair. They had never seen or heard of such a way of fighting. It was really too scary and too ruthless. This was a way of sacrificing 800 people to kill 1,000 people. Although they hadn't killed the enemy yet, the enemy was consuming their energy in the self-detonation. Don't worry about those people. Quickly come and help. In desperation, the two of them could only shout and ask the other side to come quickly. The late-stage primal core cultivator who rushed out from the third self-detonation also turned around and retreated to help. With 3 trump cards, they were determined to kill Ziqin and the other 2. Behind them, Longhu and the others also rushed up at this time and began to kill the other primal core cultivators of the 3 forces. It had to be said that the other side had too many primal core cultivators. Even after being killed by the 3 of them, there were still more than 80 primal core cultivators left, which was twice the number of Ziqin's side. As the 2 sides fought, Ziqin's primal core cultivators were already losing. Seeing that the primal core cultivators on his side were dying, Ziqin hurriedly sent a voice transmission with heartache. Retreat quickly, fight while escaping, kill. At this time, the city defense array of Yunxia City finally closed. This array opened slowly, and it was more difficult to close it. Amidst the battle cries, Wang Jinwei finally rushed out with the primal core cultivators of his family. They didn't hide anything and directly flew out more than 20 primal core cultivators, including 10 primal core cultivators with elixir weapons. The leader was even a late-stage primal core cultivator with trump cards. Take the elixir weapons and kill the enemy, quickly. Ziqin, who had been sent flying again, took advantage of this gap to throw out more than 10 elixir weapons, indicating for the Wang family members to take them. The Wang family members were slightly stunned, but with the battle imminent, they didn't hesitate and fought with the elixir weapons. With the addition of a late-stage primal core cultivator with a trump card, one of Ziqin's trio could free up their hands. Apart from that, there were also 2 powerful generals in Longhu and Spirit Devouring Rat. The direction of the battle was naturally very obvious. After a few battles, less than half of the primal core cultivators of the 3 forces were left. With such a large number of casualties, the 3 decisively chose to retreat. The 3 forces began to retreat, and Ziqin and the others kept chasing after them. In this battle, the 3 forces were completely defeated and suffered heavy losses. After chasing for more than 50 kilometers, everyone began to retreat. After returning, the first person who couldn't hold on was Ziqin. After all, the blood-colored broken spear was much weaker than the black rod and demon subduing pestle. Furthermore, Ziqin personally fought every time. The energy from his trump card constantly surged into his body. Even his perfect body couldn't hold on. Chapter 648. In today's battle, not only had Ziqin suffered heavy injuries, but the monk and the demonic ape had also suffered injuries of varying degrees. Furthermore, the team that had always maintained 0 casualties also suffered casualties today. The death count was as high as 9 core essence experts. If the 3 core essence experts who self-destructed were included, there would be a total of 12 people. The entire team's numbers had been reduced by a quarter. The defeat of the 3 factions had resulted in heavy losses for their family clans and core essence experts. They were so angry that they wanted to vomit blood. However, when the 2 factions returned to Songli City and learned of the robbery, they were so angry that they coughed up blood. During this period of time in the barbarian land, Ziqin had fought with all the opposing factions. The news of his return was naturally no secret. After disappearing for a few years, not only did he return with stronger combat strength, but he also led a core essence team. It was obvious that Ziqin was doing well in the land of chaos. Furthermore, after several battles, they were extremely wary of Ziqin. As a result, the war in the barbarian land, which had been going on for a year, ended because of Ziqin's appearance. However, everyone knew that this was the calm before the storm. After the major factions gathered their strength, they would launch an even more intense war. Clearly, both sides had reached a point where they would fight to the death unless one side was completely annihilated. The heavily injured Ziqin fainted for 2 days. 2 days later, Ziqin woke up. The heavy injuries to his foundation had also healed under the perfect body's self-recovery. When he opened his eyes, Wang Xian was accompanying him by the bed. Ziqin, you're finally awake. Are you all right? Wang Xian, I was very happy to see Ziqin wake up. I'm fine. I feel great. How long have I slept? Ziqin sat up from the bed. 2 days. Wang Xian supported Ziqin. How's the situation now? The major factions have all retreated. There aren't any major movements. Wang Xian looked at Ziqin and suddenly blushed. She said softly, Father said that you should look for him after you wake up. Look for me? Ziqin was taken aback. Wang Xian nodded shyly. Upon seeing Wang Xian's expression, Ziqin was enlightened. He was going to meet her parents. Evidently, during the 2 days he was unconscious, Wang Xian had already informed Wang Jintian and Qin Wentian about their relationship. Wang Xian brought Ziqin to look for Wang Jintian. Along the way, when some of the servants and guards saw Ziqin, their eyes were filled with worship. Clearly, they all treated him as a hero. At the entrance, Wang Xian gestured for Ziqin to enter alone. Ziqin entered with a broken heart. In a spacious and luxurious hall, Ziqin saw Wang Jintian. Sitting in the main seat, the other party had a dignified expression on his face. He exuded the dignified aura of a superior, making Ziqin feel slightly pressured. Fortunately, there was an acquaintance, Wang Jinwei, beside him. This made Ziqin feel slightly relieved. Ziqin greets the 2 seniors. Ziqin was polite and respectful. Although his combat strength was stronger than the 2 of them, he still had to be respectful at this moment and greet them as a junior. Wang Jintian did not speak. From the moment he came in, his gaze had been fixed on Ziqin. This made Ziqin feel even more pressured, to the extent that his forehead was covered with cold sweat. Big brother, how is he? He looks like a talent, right? Wang Jinwei broke the silence and praised Ziqin. Well, not bad. Wang Jintian nodded with a satisfied expression on his face. Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and sit down. Don't be shy. Make yourself at home. Wang Jintian looked dignified, but his words were like a spring breeze. His attitude was good. Ziqin breathed a sigh of relief. Ziqin thanked Wang Jintian and then sat down 2 seats away from Wang Jinwei. Soon a servant served tea. The nervous Ziqin took a sip, but of course he could not taste anything. As if seeing Ziqin's nervousness, Wang Jinwei smiled and said, Ziqin, you came back at the right time. Otherwise, our Wang family would have been in great trouble. You are now the great benefactor of our Wang family and the entire Yinxia city. Senior is overpraising me. If Senior had not brought reinforcements in time, our people might have been wiped out. As the topic of conversation started, Ziqin's nervous heart gradually calmed down. It turned out that Ziqin was thinking too much. Wang Jintian saw that he was just chatting and had no other intentions. I heard that Qiong, and Shan are following you. How are they? Wang Jintian asked. Ziqin stood up and said, They are not following me. We have established a force in the Bedlam together. Wang Shan is supervising the construction of a sect in the Bloodborne realm. Wang Qiong is leading the Dan Yuan troops and the Bloodborne realm army to guard the entire region in case the enemy invades. Ziqin's clever answer made the 2 nod continuously. The satisfaction on their faces grew. Wang Jinwei nodded and said, Yes, Qiong is very talented in commanding. Yes, Wang Qiong is very observant and calm. He is very suitable for commanding. Wang Shan is also not bad. Although he is usually impatient, he is very righteous and upright. As the 2 chatted, Ziqin told them about the situation in the Bedlam bit by bit. Although they had already heard about it from Wang Xian, hearing Ziqin's story again still touched their hearts. To be able to establish a force in the Bedlam, the 2 were very proud of the youngsters. when they heard that Wang Qiong had broken through to the Dan Yuan realm. Their faces were filled with excitement. Wang Shan is also at the great perfection of the bloodborne realm and could break through at any time. The same goes for Xian, The three of them are among the best in the bedlam, Ziqin said. The smiles on the two's faces grew wider. They found Ziqin even more pleasing to the eye. After talking about the bedlam, it was time to talk about the bedlam. The two asked Ziqin what he thought of the war. There are too few resources in this region. If we want to rise, we must quell the internal strife, Ziqin said directly. How do we quell the internal strife? Asked Wang Jintian. Negotiation is naturally out of the question. Both sides have already reached this point, and it's even more impossible for us to compromise. The only way out is to kill, to stop the killing, until one side is wiped out. As soon as he finished speaking, a murderous aura surged from Ziqin's body. Annihilate one side? What do you mean? The two looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Either we die and leave this region to them, or we live and take control of this region, said Ziqin decisively. Annihilate all the forces? Do you know what you are talking about? Wang Jinwei cried out in alarm. That's the 5 major forces. There's also the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion. You must know that the Heavenly Slaughter Alliance is backing the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion. After pondering for a moment, Ziqin said seriously, the 5 major forces are just local forces. Even if we have the Calamity Evasion Pill and have more Jindan essence, we can still annihilate them one by one. Hence, there's no need to be afraid of them. As for the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion, it's a little tricky. However, as long as the Heavenly Slaughter Alliance doesn't send anyone beyond the Jindan realm as support, it shouldn't be a big problem to annihilate them. Annihilate the 5 forces one by one? How do we do that? Asked Wang Jintian. It means to bring all the inner core experts of the clan and fight until everyone is dead. Ziqin's simple and crude answer made the two of them speechless. Wang Jintian pondered for a moment and said, This method is decisive enough. However, have you thought about this problem? When we fight the 5 forces, we will definitely suffer losses. Perhaps the losses will be very heavy. Then, how are we going to face the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion, who has a strong foundation and experts? The Qin family is refining the Calamity Evasion Pill. The amount of Jindan essence is no longer a problem. In addition to the experts on our side, we shouldn't suffer too many losses when we take down the 5 forces. Ziqin's answer surprised both of them. As for the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion, we just need to find their base and annihilate all of them. We won't let anyone escape. It has been so many years. We have tried to annihilate the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion several times. However, they are very cunning. Their base is also very well hidden. We can't annihilate them all at once. Senior, you don't have to worry about this. I have already made arrangements for finding their base. Such a simple and casual chat naturally couldn't discuss the details of the war. During this period, the Wang family would at least gather the experts for a few more meetings. The chat this time was quite pleasant. Ziqin had left a good impression on Wang Jintian. They chatted for half a day. Wang Jintian even asked Ziqin to stay for a meal. Ziqin politely declined. Just as he walked out of the hall, he saw Wang Xian waiting for him. How was it? Wang Xian seemed nervous and uneasy, just like Ziqin when he went in earlier. What do you mean? Ziqin didn't understand. How was my father's impression of you? Did he say anything? Wang Xian pulled Ziqin to the side. He should have a good impression of me. As for what he said, are you talking about us? Ziqin shook his head and said, He didn't say anything about that. We only talked about the upcoming battle between the forces. Oh, Wang Xian seemed a little disappointed. After Ziqin left, only Wang Jinwei and Wang Jintian were left in the hall. What do you think of Ziqin's suggestion? Wang Jintian looked at Wang Jinwei. After hesitating for a while, Wang Jinwei said, The 3 forces and his force make a total of 4 forces. However, it will be difficult for the 4 forces to kill the 5 forces. At the very least, it will be difficult to kill the primordial elixir realm experts. Moreover, the Heavenly Assassins Pavilion, which has the support of the Heavenly Assassins Alliance, is not easy to deal with. It will be even more difficult to eliminate them. Zichen is still too young. After hearing this, Wang Jinwei said, I think the whole idea is feasible. However, if we want to eliminate the 5 forces, we will need enough primordial elixir realm experts. Apart from that, we will also need more primordial elixir realm experts. Otherwise, even if we take down the 5 forces, the primordial elixir realm experts will be able to escape. This will cause endless trouble in the future. The Wang family arranged a special place for Zichen to rest. After returning to his residence, Zichen called Wild Wolf and Wu Lu over. Sir, the 2 of them walked in. After the spiritual transformation and the intermediate energy elixir realm, Wu Lu's strength had broken through to the intermediate primordial elixir realm. How are the casualties this time? Zichen asked. He had fainted immediately after returning, so he didn't know what had happened after battle. 9 people died in the battle this time. 3 self-destructed, so a total of 12 people died. 2 were seriously injured, 2 lost their arms, and 4 were lightly injured, Wu Lu said. Such a huge loss made Zichen frown. He then asked, how much of the ordinary Jindan essence is left? P.S. My nose is running, and there's a lot of paper next to it. My nose is red and painful, and it's very uncomfortable. Other than the runny nose in the morning, it's normal. At night, I have a headache. I don't know if it's a serious cold or rhinitis. I'll go to the hospital tomorrow. Please don't let it be a big problem. Chapter 649. There are 20 ordinary primordial core cultivators left. After releasing his perception, Zichen could still sense 8 out of 10 primordial core cultivators with the soul seed art. In other words, Longhu only had 12 primordial core cultivators left. After pondering for a moment, Zichen said, you can leave now. Call Longhu and Demon Ape here. Soon, Longhu and Demon Ape appeared. Demon Ape, go back to the Bedlam lands and bring some more people here. Tell Wang Qiong that he can only take 1 mid-stage primal core cultivator and bring the rest here. As for early-stage primal core cultivators, bring as many as you can, even if they are just cannon fodder. Demon Ape nodded and left. After leaving Yunxia City, he went straight to the teleportation array. Longhu, you should have 12 early primordial core cultivators left, right? That's not enough. Go back and get more, said Zichen. Longhu nodded, but just as he was about to leave, Zichen called him back. Forget it. 12 is 12. It's barely enough for a battle. A battle? Okay. Zichen nodded. The major forces still didn't make any moves. It was as if they had all given up. 2 days later, Zichen took the initiative to find Wang Jintian. Of course, this time he spoke as the leader of one of the major forces. Senior, when the first batch of Calamity Evasion pills comes out, I plan to attack Songli City. I need your cooperation. What? You want to attack Songli City? Wang Jintian's expression changed. Zichen nodded and said, seriously, Songli City suffered a great loss last time. Now is the best time to attack. Once we do, it will also serve as a warning to the other major forces. Then how do you want us to cooperate? Wang Jintian pondered for a moment and asked, at least 20 primordial core cultivators and 1 late primordial core cultivator. We must have a solid foundation, said Zichen firmly. Wang Jintian smiled bitterly. Our Wang family only has 23 primordial core cultivators. If you want to take 20, why don't you take all of them? When the first batch of Calamity Evasion pills comes out, I believe the Wang family will have many more primordial core cultivators. 20 is not too much. Zichen smiled. I can't give you an answer. Please allow us to discuss this. Zichen nodded, and Wang Jintian left. My lord, they definitely won't agree. After Wang Jintian left, Wu Lu whispered to Ziqin. Recently, Ziqian had been bringing Wu Lu with him wherever he went, and he also let him participate in the discussion of the war. Wu Lu used to be the leader of a force, and he dared to attack the Shangguan family's market, and even survived the attack of Shangguan Feixiong and the others, so he must have something extraordinary about him. Oh, why? Ziqian looked at Wu Lu. It's very obvious. That's the final trump card they rely on to protect themselves. They won't give you all of their Jindan essence and let you fight, Wu Lu said. As I said before, we will only attack Songli City when the first batch of evasion pills is refined. Wu Lu smiled and said, that's even more impossible. With so much core energy, they still want to use it to defend Yunxia City. Hearing Wu Lu's analysis, Ziqian smiled mysteriously and said, perhaps the process will be a little difficult, but they will definitely agree. Soon, the Wang family's Jindan essence experts gathered. These Jindan essence experts had all passed the heavenly lightning tribulation and were all at the master level. Naturally, they were also well-known figures, so they all participated in the meeting and discussed this matter in the huge conference hall. Wang Jintian sat on the side, and the main seat was reserved for the strongest person in the family. He quickly got up and explained Ziqian's intention. What? Borrowing 20 Jindan essence experts to attack Songli City? That's all of our family's trump cards. Wang Jintian, are you crazy? You actually called people to discuss such a ridiculous matter. A hot-tempered Jindan essence expert, who was older than Wang Jintian, said. As I said, after the first batch of evasion pills is successfully refined, I believe that the number of Jindan essence in our family will double, Wang Jintian said. Right now, the war is still in peace. Once we attack the Songli and Songli families, we may end up facing the 5 forces and end up being completely annihilated. I don't agree with this, another man said. He was Wang Jintian's cousin. The 5 forces haven't made any moves yet. Once we start the war, it will be equivalent to provoking them. At that time, it won't be the 3 forces besieging us, but the 5 forces besieging us. This is a reckless move, said another Jindan essence expert. Ziqian's move is a reckless gamble. He is gambling with the lives of all our Jindan essence experts. Even if we win, we will suffer heavy casualties. But if we lose, our Wang family will be finished, and Ziqian will return to the fringe. That's enough, Wang Xiang. Don't say such things in the future. The late-stage Jindan essence expert sitting at the head of the table coldly glanced at him. Although it's unpleasant to hear, it's the truth. Whether we win or lose, Ziqian has a way out, but we don't, Wang Xiang continued. The others were silent. Don't forget that without Ziqian, our Wang family would be gone. Even if we don't send out our troops, the 5 forces will let us go. Wang Jintian, sitting at the side, said, with Ziqian, they won't cause us any trouble in the short term. But after they eliminate Ziqian's forces, who can guarantee that our Wang family won't be the second Ziqian's force to be eliminated? Didn't you say that we have calamity evasion pellets? With them, we can create more Jindan essence and defend Yunxia City and the Wang family, said Wang Xiang. The calamity evasion pellets were provided by Ziqian. His purpose is to attack, not defend. And if we keep defending passively, it will only make the 5 forces stronger. When the time comes, we will still have to fight, said Wang Jinwei. I still say the same thing. If our Jindan essence experts fail, Ziqian won't suffer any losses. But our Wang family will fall into eternal damnation, said Wang Xiang. You won't suffer any losses? Wang Jinwei looked at Wang Xiang and said, 20 Jindan essence experts of our Wang family is a loss, but are the 40 or so that Ziqian brought with him not a loss? Ziqian had been preparing to establish a force in the fringe, but when he learned that we were in trouble, he immediately rushed back with his men. He came to save us, not to show off or prove anything. As you said, Ziqian still has a way out, but since he has a way out, why did he come here to attack the 5 forces? Is it just for the trivial grudges of the past? Don't be naive. Ziqin is now the leader of a force. He is no longer the powerless little guy who hid from place to place. He won't sacrifice his own life and the lives of his companions for a small grudge of the past before he has consolidated his forces. Wang Jinwei looked at the crowd and continued, Zichen has a way out, but he can also return without fighting. I don't think any force will stop him, but he didn't. Why? Because he wants to help us, help this region. The 20 or so Jindan essence experts in the hall fell silent. Even Wang Xiang was speechless. Everyone was silent. Everyone was hesitant and conflicted. They couldn't make up their minds. This wasn't just a matter of putting their lives on the line, but also the lifeline of the Wang family that had been passed down for 10,000 years. Tell Zichen to do as he says. Our Wang family will support him unconditionally, said a late Jindan essence expert sitting at the head of the table. As the strongest expert of the Wang family, his words naturally carried the most weight. Once he spoke, it was the end of the discussion and the final word. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. How could they not see the situation in front of them? They just lacked the courage to make such a bold gamble. Wang Jinwei quickly told Zichen the news. Zichen only smiled after hearing it. Sir, how did you guess that they would agree? Asked Wu Lu, puzzled. Zichen smiled and said, because they have nowhere else to go. Wu Lu still wanted to ask something, but Zichen just smiled and didn't say anything. Indeed, this choice was a bit difficult for the Wang family. The only thing that made them choose was trust. They believed that Zichen wouldn't harm the Wang family. On the same day, a piece of news spread from Yunxia City. Zichen was going to take the Wang family forces to destroy the Zhongli family and the Li family in Zhongli City. In the entire region, Zichen's news spread the fastest. As soon as this news came out, it naturally spread to all the major cities. When the news spread, it was obvious that the Wang family was furious after learning that the news had been leaked. You dare to take the initiative to come to us? You're courting death. When the forces of the Tsang and Li families heard this, they were naturally furious and threatened to not fear Zichen. But secretly, they had already sent out a signal of support. A few days later, the monk, who had returned from Yongqi City with the first batch of escape pills, passed by Zhongli City. He stood in the air above Zhongli City, looking down at the city below, and shouted, People of the Tsang and Li families, listen up. 5 days later, your Lord Zhang will bring the Dan realm army to flatten Zhongli City and make the Tsang and Li families disappear forever. The monk's domineering words spread throughout Zhongli City, and many forces were frightened. Now, Zhongli City was just like Yongqi City before. When the war came, many rogue cultivators left to find other places. You're courting death. There was a loud shout from below, and a stream of sword chi shot up to the sky, fiercely chopping towards the monk. You still have 5 days to enjoy. 5 days later, Zhongli City will be destroyed. The monk dodged the sword chi and flew in the direction of Yunxia City. 2 late-stage Dan realm experts rushed out with their foundation. But after chasing for hundreds of miles, they were afraid of an ambush, so they decisively retreated. Damn it, there are only 5 days left. Have the reinforcements come yet? The experts who came back were flustered and exasperated. A few with foundation have come. They are guarding outside. When the time comes, they will cooperate with us from the inside and outside. They will definitely be able to kill Zichen and his people. The monk's following journey was unimpeded. Now he could do whatever he wanted in this area because he was already standing at the peak of this area. Did you bring the things? As soon as the monk came back, Zichen asked. This batch of escape pills is very small. There are only 12 of them, the monk said. Why are there so few? It seems to be because of the ancient beast's blood essence. The effect of this escape pill is very strange. It doesn't suppress the person's potential. After taking it, the person's potential is still there. It is completely possible to break through to the mid-stage Dan realm. The monk's explanation surprised Zichen, but what he cared about was not these escape pills, but something else. Chapter 650. Did you bring that thing? Zichen asked, his eyes filled with eagerness. Yes, I brought it. The monk nodded, and a palm-sized heavy hammer appeared in his hand. The hammer head and handle were shining with endless lightning, like dancing thunder snakes, surging with a tyrannical aura. This was the heritage that Zichen saw in the butcher graveyard. At that time, it was placed together with the purple gold gourd. At that time, Master Mo only let Zichen take the gourd, which could be regarded as saving Zichen's life. As for the other two treasures, among all the forces, one fell into the hands of the Liu family. It was the lightning hammer in front of him. In order to successfully conquer Songli City, Zichen specially asked Tyrant to borrow this trump card from the Liu family. It was a heavy hammer that emitted lightning. It did not seem to conflict with the power of lightning in his body, so he could use the heavy hammer to its full potential. Zichen took the lightning hammer, and the yuan power in abdomen surged out. The originally tyrannical lightning hammer surged with a destructive aura, like the birth of a peerless beast. This aura spread and covered the entire Yunxia city, and everyone in the city felt a sense of oppression. This aura alarmed many Jindan masters, and they all flew toward Zichen. Zichen's body flashed with golden light, turning into a 2-meter-long lightning hammer in his hand. He was like a war god, and his cold eyes made the monk's hair stand on end. The other Jindan masters were also stunned. At this moment, Zichen gave them a feeling of extreme danger. Is this the source of his confidence? The late-stage Jindan master of the Wang family had a faint smile on his face. The stingy Liu family is actually willing to lend him their strongest heritage. Sure enough, we can't look at him with ordinary eyes. This time, we may really succeed in attacking Songli City. Looking at Zichen's cool appearance, the monk's eyes widened. At this moment, Zichen was full of threats to the monk. Don't be envious of others. When we take down Songli City, there are 2 treasures there. The golden light around Zichen's body converged, and the lightning hammer also returned to the size of a palm. That's right. They have a blade and a sword. I like to use a blade. The monk's eyes lit up, and he was filled with enthusiasm. With his foundation in hand, Zichen was in high spirits. He reared his head back and shouted, 5 days from now, attack Snowfall City with all our strength. This voice was not suppressed, and it spread throughout the entire Yunxia city like rolling thunder. Attack the floating snow city? Didn't they say they were going to attack Songli City? The cultivators who heard those words were stunned. Could it be that he said Songli City, but mistakenly said floating snow city? That's impossible. That's Zichen's voice. How could he not know which faction he's attacking? These words came from Zichen's mouth, so they were very credible. This news was spread as quickly as possible. Damn it! How dare they attack our floating snow city? Quickly call the experts of the family back. This time, we will not let them return. After hearing the news, the Chu family of floating snow city also quickly responded. The experts who were sent to help Songli City also quickly returned after hearing the news. There were still 3 days before the attack on floating snow city, but another news came from Yunxia City. Zichen was not attacking floating snow city, but the martial ancestor. He wanted to take revenge and destroy the entire martial ancestor. Originally, the martial ancestor was divided into 2 factions, but since one of them surrendered to the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion and obtained a lot of resources, they used thunderous means to suppress or kill, completing the unification. Now, the martial ancestor was as united as an iron plate. As soon as the news came out, the martial ancestor also quickly made some arrangements. As for who Zichen was going to attack, it seemed to become more and more confusing. While waiting, 5 days quickly passed, but there was no movement in Yunxia City. Zichen did not assemble a team, and the local forces of Yunxia City also did not make any moves. As it turned out, this was a joke. After the forces learned about it, they were angry, but they did not relax their vigilance. The first batch of calamity avoidance pills had successfully created more than a dozen core realm masters. As the Qin family said, this pill was a real treasure, and it did not affect their potential at all. It turned out that after swallowing the calamity avoidance pills, their potential was still very high. Zichen had reservations about this. After 6 days, Zichen and his group still did not make any moves. Just when everyone thought that Zichen was just joking with the big forces, his team suddenly assembled. His own core realm masters and the local core realm masters of Yunxia City formed a team of more than 50, and they went straight to Songli City. After leaving Yunxia City, the city defense array appeared, and Yunxia City entered a state of full defense. After more than a year of war, Yunxia City's core realm masters changed from defense to offense for the first time. After leaving Yunxia City for hundreds of miles, Zichen left the team and flew in another direction. Zichen's sudden departure puzzled everyone, but they did not ask. Their goal was Songli City. Zichen stopped on a mountain peak a few miles away. Soon, a white figure flew over from the horizon. How many people have come from the 5 forces? The white figure approached. It was the spirit-devouring rat. Zichen asked. The martial ancestor sent 8 core realm masters, one of which is a mid-stage core realm master. They are thousands of miles north of Songli City. The Chu family only sent 6 core realm masters, but there are 2 mid-stage core realm masters. The Gung family stayed in the south with 8 core realm masters. The Zhu family did not send anyone. The Heavenly Slayer Pavilion sent 12 core realm masters, 2 of which are mid-stage core realm masters. The spirit-devouring rat finished in one breath. During this time, it was responsible for monitoring the movements of these forces. Previously, the spirit-devouring rat sensed the arrival of the late-stage core realm masters, which was why Zichen said to attack Snowfall City. They planned to work together and annihilate you all outside Songli City. Zichen nodded, indicating that he understood. Then, he let the spirit-devouring rat lead the way. Thousands of miles away from Songli City, there was a huge mountain forest. 12 core realm masters were hiding on one of the mountain peaks. They were very careful and cautious. Even in this desolate and uninhabited place, they had been hiding in the void. They were waiting for Zichen to start a war with the forces of Songli City. Then they would sneak over and launch a sneak attack. Yes, suddenly, a mid-stage assassin frowned and looked into the distance. There was an energy fluctuation. The others also felt it and turned their heads. Then, they saw a black-clothed assassin appear in the void. However, the assassin's figure flashed and disappeared. Just as he appeared, he hit again. Didn't they only send the 12 of us? Did they send someone else? One of the assassins asked in confusion. Even if they wanted to send someone, they couldn't have sent just one person. They should have sent a few more, another said. The opponent's realm doesn't seem high. He might be here to send a message, the third assassin said. Assassins were all very fast. It was reasonable to say that the assassin should have already arrived in front of him in the time it took for the 3 sentences to be exchanged. However, the assassin didn't seem to appear. Not good. A mid-stage assassin sensed that something was wrong. His face suddenly changed and he let out a low cry. Puff! However, before he could say anything, a sharp spear appeared out of thin air and pierced through his back, piercing through his heart in one strike. The mid-stage assassin showed his figure with despair and horror, and then he fell to the ground. Such a change naturally alarmed the other core realm masters. Their faces changed dramatically, and they flew away as fast as they could. They were retreating at top speed, but a blood-red spear was tailing them. It kept appearing from the void, and every time the spear appeared from its hidden state, one of the assassins would be pierced through the heart, and his soul would be destroyed. Damn it! Who is the real assassin? Seeing their companions fall one by one, the group of assassins was frightened. They came from the assassin pavilion and had been practicing the way of assassination since young. They were the kings of assassination. However, at this moment, the existence that was hiding in the void was even more proficient in the way of assassination than they were. The other party was moving in the void, and they couldn't detect any trace of movement. They also couldn't sense the speed of the other party's attack. Puff! Puff! The sound of the broken spear piercing into the body was heard continuously. Fresh blood and corpses appeared in the void from time to time and fell into the forest. This was a battle between assassins. It was a silent battle. There was no turbulent energy in the world, only corpses that kept falling. After 11 corpses fell from the sky, one after another, a figure in black appeared in the void. His eyes were cold, and he held the broken spear in his hand. It was Zichen. After staying with Zhang Haotian and the Devil Ape for so long, Zichen naturally knew a little about the way of assassination. He might not be as good as Zhang Haotian and the Devil Ape, but compared to these assassins he was more than enough. 11 of the 12 assassins were dead. As for the last one, he took advantage of the chaos to escape. After collecting all the spiritual rings and elixir weapons, Zichen turned into a ray of light and flew in the second direction. It was the people from the Chu family in the fluttering Snow City. When they saw the figure of an assassin in the distance, they were stunned. What is the assassin doing here? Could it be that he has some new information? The people who sensed the arrival of the assassin were puzzled, but soon they knew the purpose of the assassin's arrival. After a few fierce battles, these people turned into corpses and resources. The identity of an assassin gave Zichen a lot of convenience. At first glance, they thought he was one of them. Therefore, with the identity of an assassin and the guidance of the spirit devouring rats, Zichen visited the hiding places of all the forces. During this period, there were almost no decent battles. The only thing Zichen could do was to kill and kill. Moreover, under the way of assassination, this kind of killing and killing was faster. After returning, he had many energy Dan essence, spiritual rings, and elixir weapons. Zichen had already wasted more than half a day to get rid of all the Dan essences in the periphery. According to the time, the monk and the others should have arrived at Songli City at full speed. Therefore, Zichen also sped up and flew toward Songli City. Songli City had been closed for a long time. The city defense formation had also been activated. The energy light shield sealed and protected the entire city. Chapter 651. The monk and the others were much more direct. They bombarded the defender array with all their might as soon as they arrived, not worrying about consumption at all. Elixir weapons, foundations, demons subduing pestle, and energy attacks constantly flashed in the sky, and then fell heavily with a terrifying aura. The earth rumbled, and the entire Songli City trembled as if the sky and earth were falling apart. Attack with all your might. Don't hold back. Under the rich Buddhist power in his body, the demon subduing pestle had become hundreds of meters long. It was shining with golden light, like a huge golden mountain, and smashed with an ear-piercing sound. Although such an attack was powerful, it consumed a lot of energy. However, the monk didn't care at all, as if it didn't consume the energy in his body. The foundations in the hands of the late-stage primordial core cultivators were also emitting a terrifying aura. The bright light was like a scorching sun. Every time the foundations fell, the void would be torn apart, and the entire Songli City would tremble. The other primordial core cultivators were also desperately attacking with their elixir weapons. Humph, go ahead and fight. Fight with all your might. Let's see how you fight when the energy in your body is depleted. In Songli City, the primordial core cultivators of the two families sneered at the monk and the others who were desperately attacking outside. They had already made up their minds. When these people ran out of energy, they would suddenly launch an attack and completely destroy them. What is that? Looking at the primordial core cultivators outside the energy shield, they suddenly frowned. In the sky, a gigantic hammer head flashing with lightning appeared. It was as big as a mountain peak. Lightning flashed on the surface of its body, as if there were snakes of lightning swimming around it. It emitted a terrifying aura and smashed towards the energy barrier with a loud bang. That's the foundation of the Lu family. Damn it, it's in the hands of Zichen. Seeing Zichen holding the hammer, a primordial core cultivator cursed secretly. Boom! The heavy hammer fell, shattering the void. This blow was so powerful that the energy shield began to tremble violently. The vibration caused many cultivators in the city to collapse to the ground. They looked at the huge lightning hammer that was raised high again, and their eyes were filled with horror. Good. 2 foundations. This time, our 2 families will reluctantly accept them. The strongest cultivator of the Leaf family had a cold light in his eyes as he gritted his teeth. Such a consumption of energy. They are. Boom! The heavy hammer fell once again. Endless lightning surged, completely drowning out the words that the other party was about to say. Amidst the loud rumbling, the cultivator who had just stood up in the city was once again shaken to the point where he staggered and fell. Outside the light shield, Zichen was like a god of war. Every time the lightning hammer fell, the light shield would tremble. With such a terrifying attack, coupled with the all-out attacks of the others, it wouldn't be long before the energy barrier was broken. Humph, go ahead. The experts from the Tsang and Li families were not afraid when they saw the trembling light barrier. They even had sneers on their faces. Amidst the constant attacks, the rate of Jindan essence attacks in the outside world gradually slowed down. Clearly, some people had expended a lot of energy and were gradually slowing down their attacks. Moreover, there were already some weaker Jindan essences who had expended all their energy and were beginning to sit cross-legged to recover their internal essence force. Seeing this, Song Clan's Dan Yuan sneered. He's finally at his limit. Since they can't hold on any longer, let's help them. The expert from the Li clan also snorted coldly and said loudly, "Deactivate the defensive light barrier." He didn't deliberately suppress his voice, and it spread throughout the entire Tsangli city. Many cultivators heard it and looked at the Li clan expert in the air in disbelief. Under such circumstances, shouldn't they choose to defend? Why did they deactivate the light barrier? Were they trying to let Zichen and the others in? In the next moment, they understood why the 2 forces were doing this. After the Li clan expert finished speaking, several figures suddenly flew out from the direction of the Tsang and Li clans. These were all Jindan essences, and powerful auras surged around them. In the blink of an eye, there were more than 50 of them, and then there were 10 more. After 3 breaths, there were as many as 80 Jindan essences from the 2 forces. This was an extremely terrifying number. 80 Jindan essences and 80 Zone Masters. They had incredible combat strength, and their numbers were far more than Zichen and the others outside the light shield. Boom! After the last loud explosion, Zichen and the others outside the light shield completely gave up attacking, because at this moment, everyone's energy had been depleted. However, after their energy was depleted, they didn't immediately retreat. Instead, they sat cross-legged in the air, recovering their energy at the gate of Tsangli City, and waited for their energy to recover before launching the second wave of attacks. What a bunch of reckless idiots. More than 80 Jindan essences had all gathered, waiting for the energy shield to disappear so that they could rush out one by one. However, this rather complicated energy shield was troublesome to set up and equally difficult to deactivate. It seemed that they would have to wait for a while until it was completely gone, and this moment undoubtedly gave Zichen and the others time to recover. But how much could they recover in just a moment? So they had enough patience to wait. Buzz. After a while, the light shield above Tsangli City began to tremble, distort, and show signs of disappearing. Outside the light shield, Zichen's Jindan essences saw this scene, and their expressions changed. Inside the light shield, the Jindan essences all had hideous smiles on their faces. In the next moment, the light shield disappeared. Not good. Retreat quickly. Just as the light shield disappeared, the cultivators in the city heard Zi Chen's slightly panicked voice, and then saw the many experts he brought with him begin to retreat in panic. Don't you think it's too late to retreat now? How dare you come to Songli City and behave so atrociously? Today will be the day you die. Haha, Zi Chen, go to hell. More than 80 Jindan essences all rushed out, crazily rushing towards Zi Chen and the others like a tide. At this moment, Zi Chen and the others were fleeing in panic. 7 or 8 Jindan essences did not have time to get up and escape, and were surrounded by a group of Jindan essences. They had hideous smiles on their faces, held Jindan weapons in their hands, and shouted the word die coldly. In their imagination, the 8 Jindan essences who did not have time to escape should be scared witless and kneeling on the ground to beg for mercy when they saw the number of Jindan essences 10 times their own. But when the 8 of them raised their heads, they knew they were wrong. There was no fear in their eyes, only coldness, a calm coldness. Boom, 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 boom. Immediately after, the 8 Jindan essences exploded with loud booms. The energy of the self-detonation formed a terrifying energy storm that spread and wreaked havoc in all directions. Under this energy storm, a black hole was blasted open in the void. The black hole spread like a passage to the netherworld, directly swallowing the nearby Jindan essences. Moreover, the storm was still spreading, swallowing the other Jindan essences who had seen the unfavorable situation and were frantically trying to escape. In the distance, the Wang family members who were retreating with Zi Qin were shocked when they saw the storm that swallowed dozens of Jindan essences. They were not only shocked by the terrifying power of the storm, but also by the courage of the 8 Jindan essences. The battle had just begun, and they had self-detonated without saying anything. They clearly had the opportunity to escape, but they did not immediately do so. It was as if they had decided to self-detonate at the first moment. Just how had Zi Qin managed to nurture such a loyal and fearless Dan Yuan? While everyone was puzzled, their gazes toward Zi Qin also became extremely fearful. Quickly swallow the liquefied origin essence. They were so shocked that they forgot to swallow the liquefied origin essence. Fortunately, Zi Chen's loud reminder woke them up, and they all swallowed the liquefied origin essence. As for the late-stage Jindan essences, they swallowed for mid-grade liquefied origin essence in an instant. After 4 drops of liquefied origin essence went down their stomachs, they clicked their tongues in heartache. The destructive energy in front of them was still spreading and spreading, and all kinds of booms were heard. Of course, the screams never stopped. Lifeless and incomplete corpses fell from the Tiamat's wrath one after another. Broken limbs were everywhere. The self-detonation of 8 Jindan essences must have caused great losses to the Tsang and Li families. Even if they did not lose half of their forces, it was still possible to lose 1/3 of their forces. As the destructive energy spread and spread, the towering city gate of Songli City was also affected by the energy. With a boom, it collapsed. This gate that had stood for thousands of years was finally destroyed. Additionally, even more streams of power of devastation descended like tidal waves, destroying many of the buildings there. Many cultivators were also killed by the shock waves. Mournful screams continued to rise and fall. Songli City, which was still intact a moment ago, was instantly turned into a living hell. The Jindan essences of the 2 families who were lucky not to be caught in the destructive energy had eyes full of fear. The 2 late-stage Jindan essences kept rushing into the destructive energy to save people. But under such circumstances, how many people could they save? And even if they could save the Jindan essences, they were all seriously injured. How much fighting power could they have? When the destructive energy dissipated, 1/5 of Songli City had been destroyed. Of the 80-odd Jindan essences of the 2 families, only 48 were still at full strength. Except for a few who were injured, the rest were all killed by the self-detonation of the energy. With such heavy losses, the Jindan essences of the two families were naturally spitting fire. However, they were still confident that they could win this battle because they still had reinforcements. Moreover, Zichen and the others had exhausted all their energy. But when they regrouped and prepared for a fierce battle, they were shocked to find that the energy in their bodies had been completely restored. Everyone was back in peak condition. How is this possible? Many Jindan essences were in disbelief. Is this strange? Don't you know that there is such a thing as liquefied essence in this world? Zichen replied with a cold laugh. As soon as he finished speaking, Zichen's team spread out. All the Jindan essences held their elixir weapons and got into a fighting stance. Even if they have recovered their energy, they will still die. Under the furious expressions of the two late-stage Jindan essences, a group of more than 40 Jindan essences charged towards Zichen and the others. Zichen and the late-stage Jindan essences went forward and blocked the powerhouses of the two families. The monk, Longhu, Wild Wolf, and Wu Lu attacked the mid-stage Jindan essences of the two families. As for the early-stage Jindan essences, they fought against the Jindan essences of the two families. When the number of people was about the same, it was time to compete. However, it was obvious that Zichen's side had many powerful people. Moreover, there were 12 of them who could self-detonate their Jindan essences at any time. They had received orders before the battle to self-detonate if they could not win. Chapter 652. The battle spread throughout the entire Songli city. Countless buildings were destroyed, and many cultivators were killed or injured. Many cultivators fled in fear. Under Shan, Longhu, and Monk, the number of primordial core cultivators on both sides decreased rapidly. Eventually, all of them were killed. In the end, only 2 late-stage primordial core cultivators were left fighting in the sky. Moreover, with Zichen's unlimited supply of liquefied yuan, the 2 exhausted late-stage primordial core cultivators were suppressed by them. 80 primordial core cultivators were killed, just like that. The 2 late-stage primordial core cultivators were also suppressed. Despair filled the faces of the Tsongli and Tsongli cultivators. Why? Where are the reinforcements? Where are the reinforcements? Didn't you say that we would attack from the inside? The 2 late-stage primordial core cultivators roared at the sky. They wanted to cry, but had no tears. Their faces were full of regret and despair. The reinforcements that were supposed to appear in the original plan had not appeared. If they had known this, they would have chosen to defend. But now, looking at the ruined Songli city and the corpses of primordial core cultivators, they were so angry that they could not say a word. Boom! Lightning danced in the sky like silver snakes. The thunder hammer smashed through the air. The late-stage primordial core cultivator resisted with his foundation. However, he had exhausted too much of his energy and was directly knocked back. Looking at Zichen, he also swallowed yuan liquefied after the attack. Then he could clearly feel the energy in his body recovering. He could not remember how many yuan liquefied Zichen had swallowed. However, looking at his calm expression, he did not seem to be distressed at all. It seemed that he still had a lot of yuan liquefied. Kill. While fighting in the sky, Zichen still had time to give orders. It was obvious that he really had the upper hand. Therefore, in the sky-shaking battle cries, Monk and the others rushed toward the 2 families. Damn it, stop! The late-stage primordial core cultivator roared. He mobilized the yuan liquefied in his body to control his foundation to stop the others. However, with Zichen and the Wang family's primordial core cultivators, the 2 exhausted cultivators could not get rid of them. Moreover, the 2 exhausted cultivators were likely to stay here forever. A group of primordial core cultivators were killed, and the family's experts were restrained. The 2 families naturally put up a defensive light shield early. The defensive power of the light shield was very strong. Chen had attacked it several times with the broken spear a few days ago, but there was no reaction. Open up! Everyone retreated as Tyrant strode forward. With a roar, he controlled the demon subduing pestle, which was the size of a small mountain, to smash down. Terrifying Buddhist power surged, and the light barrier trembled violently under this smash. After that strike, the monk retreated. Longhu transformed into a beam of light and dived down. Then his tiger claws stomped on the light shield. The light shield shook violently, and ripples appeared on its surface. After that, a group of primordial Dan cultivators attacked with their weapons. Under the bombardment of dozens of Dan essence cultivators, the light barrier trembled even more violently. Moreover, cracks had already appeared on the surface of the barrier, which was a sign that it was about to be broken. Damn it! Stop! In the air, the late-stage nascent core cultivator of the Li family roared. His expression was ferocious and terrifying. However, Chen had him pinned down. He continued to unleash one powerful attack after another. It was impossible for him to help. If you want to save them, all you have to do is self-destruct your Jindan essence. Chen responded with a cold smile in the midst of the fierce battle. It was not easy to cultivate to late-stage nascent core realm in this barbarian land without any resources. If such a talent was placed in the overlords of the Bedlam land, he would definitely be able to break through and surpass the nascent core realm. However, even a late-stage nascent core cultivator was an absolute expert in this land. This kind of existence cherished life more than anything else. Naturally, it was impossible for him to self-destruct his Jindan essence. However, when he saw that his family was about to be destroyed, his painful and ferocious expression became even more violent. Boom! In the midst of a loud explosion, the light shield of the Li family was broken. Tyrant and Longhu were the first to turn into a beam of light and kill their way in. The other nascent core cultivators followed closely behind. Sure enough, after they rushed into the Li family, they found that there were still 7 or 8 nascent core cultivators. All of them had a face full of shock and fear. Dozens of nascent core cultivators had already been killed, not to mention these 7 or 8. Therefore, under the attack of Tyrant and Longhu, the 8 nascent core cultivators were all killed. The 2 were very powerful. As long as they were not late-stage nascent core cultivators, all nascent core cultivators had to die. As they went deeper into the Li family, they found that there were still 2 nascent core cultivators at the peak of mid-stage. They had forcefully broken out of seclusion and were only 1 step away from late-stage nascent core realm. However, the 2 who did not make the final step were also killed by Tyrant's demon subduing pestle. The nascent core cultivators of the Wang family who followed Tyrant into the Li family were still in a daze. Looking at everything in front of them, they felt as if they were dreaming. More than 10 days ago, they were still facing a disaster. Now, after only 10 days, they had attacked the Li family instead. Everyone, find the Li family's treasury first. Let's go there first. After dealing with all the nascent core cultivators, Tyrant's anxious shout came from the direction of the Li family. Clearly, the greedy Tyrant's nature had not changed. In an instant, he thought of the ultimate heritage of the Li family. When the Li family cultivators who were fighting with Chen in the sky heard this, they wanted to vomit blood. The Li family occupied a large area, and there were pavilions everywhere. Everyone wanted to find the treasury from the many pavilions, but it was undoubtedly a dream. Everyone was like a headless fly, running around randomly. At the crucial moment, Longhu's soul remembrance controlled a nascent core cultivator. Then, under the nascent core cultivator's guidance, they successfully found the Li family's treasury and hid there. This scene shocked the nascent core cultivators of the Wang family once again. The treasury was a 3-story pavilion. There was a nascent core cultivator and more than 10 nascent core cultivators guarding it. Normally, this would be a powerful force. However, these people did not need Tyrant and Longhu to do anything. Wild Wolf and Wu Lu killed them directly. There was also a formation outside the 3-story pavilion. An early-stage nascent core cultivator was directly bounced back. Rays of light flashed around the pavilion. It was only a defensive formation. It did not have any offensive capabilities. "Watch me!" Tyrant shouted loudly. He poured pure Buddhist energy into the demon-subduing pestle. The demon-subduing pestle instantly emitted a dazzling and blinding light. Then he smashed it 3 times. Amidst the 3 loud explosions, the formation outside the treasury was brutally shattered with a crack. The entire formation turned into energy and disappeared. Then, under a surge of turbulent energy, the door of the treasury was smashed. After the door was smashed, rays of dazzling light were emitted from the first floor of the treasury. All kinds of items were emitting dazzling lights. Dense spiritual energy also surged out crazily like a fountain. After thousands of years of accumulation, there were naturally many good things in the Li family's treasury. Although these things were not very precious in the eyes of Tyrant, who had seen the world, it did not stop him from collecting them. Although his original intention was to find a secret weapon, it was undoubtedly a dream. If there was a secret weapon, they would have used it to fight. Moreover, in this place where resources were scarce, every family had a secret weapon that surpassed an elixir weapon. This was no doubt a miracle. There were 3 floors of the treasury. All kinds of treasures were dazzling. However, under the looting of dozens of people, the treasures in the 3 floors of the treasury were not enough. Everyone quickly finished looting. Moreover, this included the various treasures in the treasury. It could be said that everyone had thoroughly looted. When everyone finally left, the entire 3 floors of the treasury had collapsed. It could be seen how thorough the looting was. "Everyone collect them all first. We will distribute them after we return," the greedy Tyrant said loudly. It was rare for him to be fair. However, no one knew if it was because he could not collect the treasures as fast as the others, or because he was jealous when he saw others collecting too much. The treasury had been taken, the Jinden essence had been wiped out, and not even a single Yukon cultivator was left. The Li clan's momentum was gone, and in the sky, the Li clan's Jinden essence had been greatly depleted. If they continued to fight with Ziqin, it was possible that they would die today. "Just you wait. I will be back." Their momentum was gone. If they continued to stay here, it would be a suicide mission. Therefore, Li family's Dan Yuan left a ruthless sentence and quickly fled with his secret weapon. "Leave your secret weapon and your life before you go," Zichun shouted and chased with the thunder hammer. Boom! The thunder hammer danced in the sky like thousands of snakes dancing wildly. It smashed a large piece of space and hit Li family's Dan Yuan. Li family's Dan Yuan used this attack to retreat. However, in terms of speed, Zichun was obviously faster. He directly turned into a golden light and chased after him. "Ziqin, you are too much!" Li family's Dan Yuan shouted and then attacked. The 2 retreated while fighting. On the other side, after seeing the Tyrant and the others leave the Li family for the Tsang family, Tsang family's Dan Yuan's face was ashen. Boom! The sound of the bombardment of the formation rang in his ears. It was like a heavy hammer pounding on his heart, making his heart ache. However, as a late-stage Dan Yuan who had lived for a long time, he was not a sentimental person. This time, he decisively retreated without waiting for the tragedy of the Tyrant breaking the formation. As long as there is life, there is hope. This was the Tsang family's Dan Yuan's thought. The Wang family's Dan Yuan naturally would not let go of this opportunity to kill the opponent. He started to chase with his secret weapon. Therefore, in the fierce battle, the 2 sides were getting farther and farther away from the Tsangli city. The battle in the sky above the city finally stopped. A group of survivors also climbed up from the ruins. "It's over. The Tsangli city is over. It's over. The Tsang and Li families will become a thing of the past today." In the ruined city, there were still some lucky survivors. Their heads and faces were covered in dust. They could be considered as witnesses to the destruction of the Tsang and Li clans. At this time, the Tsang family's formation was naturally broken. The tyrant's continuous clamor to find the treasure was also heard. The tyrant and the others went to find the treasure. However, this time, many people chose to stay and did not follow. These people were brought by Wu Lu before. Because their combat power was far beyond ordinary Danyuan, there were still 8 people alive. Including Wu Lu, there were 9 people. Go and kill everyone in these 2 forces. Leave no one alive. Remember to be careful. Wu Lu's eyes flashed with cold light. The 8 people nodded and then killed the rest of the Tsang and Li families. In the past, they only killed Danyuan and Yukong. Some true energy realm cultivators who resisted were also killed. However, those who did not resist and hid were all alive. This time, under Wu Lu's cold words, they carried out a massacre. In other words, their families were exterminated. P.S. It seems that I owe a lot of chapters, but only 1 chapter has been returned. I originally wanted to say that there were many things to do this month during the new year, so I would slow down the update and guarantee 2 chapters a day. However, in order to sincerely thank the friends who voted for me and to not lose my poor character, I would only add 3 chapters a day. Chapter 653. The Tsang family's treasury was discovered as expected. The monk rushed in at lightning speed and collected the dazzling treasures. However, it seemed that his speed was not much faster than the others. Moreover, there were many people in the Wang family, so they collected the treasures quickly. Everyone, collect the treasures first. We will distribute them later, the monk shouted again. The battle came to an end. The Tsang and Li families were destroyed, and the Tsangli city was in a mess. This great force that had been passed down for thousands of years had come to an end. Many cultivators in the city were still in disbelief. The people of the Wang family were also in a daze. The Tsang and Li families were gone just like that. Everything seemed too unreal. When Zichen returned, the Tsang and Li families had already turned into a sea of fire. The monk and the others had also gathered. In this battle, they had obtained a complete victory, but their losses were not small. Zichen's side only had 5 ordinary primal core experts left, while the Wang family's side had 20 primal core experts, but they had also lost 5, leaving only 15. However, compared to the Tsang and Li families, this was a great victory. Wu Lu quickly reported the losses of the battle to Zichen. It was still within the scope of control. Zichen nodded. At this moment, a figure flew over from the horizon. It was the Dan primary cultivator of the Wang family. Although he was seriously injured, he still ran into the fluttering Snow City's Chu family's territory, said the Dan primary cultivator of the Wang family. Me too. He ran into the martial ancestors' territory. Zichen nodded. This was a great victory, but the 2 strongest cultivators of the family had escaped. This was a great pity. The battle was surprisingly smooth. According to the original plan, it would take 2 days to break the city defense formation, and then fight on the 3rd day. However, the Tsang and Li families' cultivators were too conceited and trusted the other forces too much. They always wanted to cooperate with the outside forces, so the battle ended in less than a day. The Tsangli city was already in a mess, so there was no need to stay. The group began to return to Yunxia City. Today, one of the 5 forces had been destroyed. There were 4 more: the Chu family of Fluttering Snow City, the Zhu family of Lingyao City, the Martial Ancestor, and the Gung family of Letian City. The portal to the Fringe was still guarded by the Zhu family's Danyuan, but this was already the 3rd batch of Danyuan. The first batch of 5 primordial Dan experts had all been killed by Zichen. The second batch only had 3 primordial Dan experts guarding this place, but they all died mysteriously one day. They were the 3rd batch and had been guarding this place for more than 10 days. During this period of time, they had only killed a few flight warriors who were trying to leave this area. Who the hell is it that left this area? He's actually able to kill 3 ancestral masters. Isn't he a little too strong? For the past 10 days, the 3 of them had been struggling with this question. Who knows? However, it is clear that the other party has left this place and does not plan to return, another person said. Why? Is there even a need to ask? If they can come back after going out, then why didn't any of the cultivators who left this place come back alive? Even our family's monstrous genius, Zhu Zizong, didn't come back. It is said that the Bedlam lands are very scary. Even sect masters might die there, Zhu family's Danyuan said solemnly. But didn't Ziqin come back? Ziqin, TSK, he did come back, but isn't he also in trouble now? Several forces are already planning to kill him. That's right. With the Calamity Evasion pellet, we have more sect masters on our side. They have too few people. If they don't look for reinforcements, they will definitely lose this battle. Look for reinforcements. Suddenly, the other 2 primordial Dan experts stared at each other with wide eyes. That's right. If he doesn't look for reinforcements, he will definitely die. However, he won't be able to find reinforcements in this area unless he goes to the Bedlam lands, Danyuan said again. Go to the Bedlam lands to find reinforcements? Could it be that those 3 were killed by Ziqin? The other 2 primordial Dan experts were shocked. That can't be right. The first primordial Dan expert's heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, a burst of energy appeared not far behind them. The 3 primordial Dan experts subconsciously turned around and their expressions changed. In front of them, the teleportation array flashed and 5 figures appeared. All of them were surrounded by powerful primordial Dan auras. 2 of them actually had auras that frightened the 3 primordial Dan experts. Between the 2 stood a tall humanoid beast. After seeing the 3 primordial Dan experts, a cold light flashed in his eyes. The corners of his mouth curled into a hideous smile, and a black rod engraved with mysterious runes appeared in his hand. In the next moment, they saw the humanoid beast with the rod disappear. After that, they didn't know what happened, but they vaguely heard 3 sounds. The devil ape finally arrived with the main force. This time, there were more than 100 primordial Dan experts. Among them, there were 30 ordinary primordial Dan experts and 2 mid-stage primordial Dan experts. Haifeng was one of them. Other than that, the rest were all powerful primordial Dan experts who had withstood the heavenly thunder calamity by themselves. After learning about the situation in this area, Wang Qiong began to transfer primordial Dan experts. These were all the primordial Dan experts that Wang Qiong could transfer. Moreover, the condition was that Old Turtle had to be there when the big forces attacked. Haifeng, take the others to the designated place. Ziqin is there. After killing 3 primordial Dan experts, the devil ape transmitted a message to Haifeng. At the same time, he also sent a map to Haifeng. Where are you going? Haifeng asked. I'm going to Danyang City. As soon as his voice fell, the devil ape disappeared in a flash. He went straight to Danyang City. In a flash of light, the other primordial Dan experts were also teleported. Haifeng then led the crowd to Yunxia City. In Danyang City, the Qin and Zhu families had just heard the news of Tsangli City's destruction. The 2 leaders immediately widened their eyes, their faces full of shock. What? Tsangli City was destroyed? Both Tsangli and Li families were annihilated? The Qin family's traitor genius alchemist stood up in shock. How is this possible? Didn't they say there was an inside and outside cooperation? Weren't there dozens of Yu Fei and more than 10 assassins? So many people couldn't kill Ziqin. The Zhu family's primordial Dan expert was also shocked. The news came that the Tsangli and Li families took the initiative to remove the light shield, and then took advantage of the fact that Ziqin's side was exhausted to kill their way out. However, Ziqin's side directly self-destructed 8 primordial Dan experts. The rest of the people's battle strength suddenly recovered, and the primordial Dan experts who were cooperating with the outside didn't appear. The primordial Dan expert who who reported briefly explained the details of the battle. How could this be? The two primordial Dan experts were in disbelief. Boom! Suddenly, a tremor came from the city, and a surge of energy surged. What's going on? What's going on? The two primordial Dan experts' expressions changed. Then another explosion was heard. This time, it was accompanied by a cry of pain. Master, it's not good. A human-shaped monster entered the city and is now wantonly killing Zong masters. After the third rumble, a primordial Dan expert came to report. What? A human-shaped monster is killing Zong masters? Are Zong masters so easy to kill? The two primordial Dan experts glared and turned into streams of light flying out of the hall. He has a black stick in his hand. He can kill one with one blow. The primordial Dan expert, who had just rushed and also chased out. The two leaders stood in the air, overlooking the entire spirit brilliant city. Then they saw an ape-like human-shaped monster flying in the city. The monster's speed was very fast, and with a black stick in his hand, he chased after the fleeing Zong masters. Boom! The black stick in the monster's hand fell, causing an explosion between heaven and earth. Then, the two primordial Dan experts' pupils shrank. A Zong master expert was killed just like that. Now, the two primordial Dan experts understood what a massacre was. They understood why there were so many Zong masters, but they were still crazily running away. Damn it! How dare he come here and cause trouble? Close the city gates and open the city protection array. I want to kill him here. The Qin family genius alchemist gritted his teeth. Caw-caw! Amidst the loud cracking sounds, the various city gates of Spirit Brilliant City were closed. A resplendent jet of light rose from the very center of the city before spreading out and descending, forming a gigantic light barrier that protected the entire Spirit Brilliant City. The city protection array needed a long time to be activated. During this time, the monster ape could choose to escape, but he didn't. He just kept dodging and killing. When the city protection array was activated and trapped him inside, he had already killed 9 primordial Dan experts and was rushing towards the 10th. Boom! Another loud tremor. The 10th person was also killed. Then, the monster ape rushed towards the 11th person. Under the stunned expressions of the two leaders, the 11th person was also killed. He killed 11 people in a row. Why is he not exhausted? This was what the two primordial Dan experts were most confused about. Boom! Boom! Then the 12th and 13th primordial Dan experts were also killed. The human-shaped monster still had a lot of energy in his body. During this time, the group of primordial Dan experts also joined forces to launch several attacks, but not even a hair of the monster ape was harmed. What the monster ape was doing now was a massacre. He killed his way into Danyang City alone and killed a group of primordial Dan experts. Many cultivators below were dumbfounded. When the death count of the primordial Dan experts reached 15, the monster ape was finally exhausted, and his attacks were no longer as sharp. He could only kill one person with 2 strikes. However, before the two primordial Dan experts could get excited, the smile on their faces completely froze. They were stunned, dumbfounded, and then terrified, because the human-shaped monster, who had exhausted a lot of energy, after swallowing a liquid that emitted a beautiful light, the huge amount of energy that he had consumed before was recovered in the next moment. Then he continued to kill one person with each strike. And what scared the two the most was that the human-shaped monster was only in the flight realm, but he was devouring primordial Dan experts. He had actually swallowed all the elixir essences of the elders he had killed in succession into his mouth. He was eating energy primordial Dan experts like he was eating candy. Such a scene was completely demonic in the eyes of the two primordial Dan experts. Quick! Activate the city protection array. The primordial Dan expert of the Qin clan saw that the situation was not good and also shouted loudly. There was obvious panic in his voice. At the same time, he swooped into the Qin clan and activated the clan's energy light shield. At this moment, all the primordial Dan experts in the city fled to the Qin clan as if they had seen a life-saving straw. After the monster ape killed 25 primordial Dan experts, the huge Danyang city became dead silent. All the surviving primordial Dan experts hid in the Qin clan. Chapter 654. In the dead silence of Danyang city, only the devil ape was standing in the air. Damn it, where did this monster come from? It's so terrifying. It can blow up a group of Dan essence cultivators while flying. In the Qin family's great formation, a group of Dan essence cultivators were full of horror, and their bodies couldn't help but tremble. The great formation opened, but the devil ape in the air didn't leave immediately. His eyes were the same as Zichen's at that time, looking at the tallest and most prosperous buildings. After that, the devil ape turned into a ray of light and entered. All the cultivators who saw this scene couldn't help but think of the word loot. After a quarter of an hour, the devil ape left Danyang City without a word. He didn't say a word from the beginning to the end. Another quarter of an hour later, the Dan essence cultivators of the Qin family cried out in pain above Danyang City. Damn it, where did this monster come from? A big city was attacked by a humanoid monster without resistance, and they became flustered and exasperated. Soon, news came that this humanoid monster was brought by Zichen and was one of Zichen's subordinates. Damn it, it's Zichen again. I'm not done with you. When Zichen and the others returned victorious, the cultivators stationed in Yunxia City were in disbelief. As the great formation closed and the energy shield disappeared, the group entered the city. It didn't take long for them to take down Songli City, and the news of the destruction of the two families spread. As soon as the news came out, Yunxia City was shocked. The great forces that had stood for so long were disintegrated today, completely becoming a thing of the past. This was a great joy, and Yunxia City celebrated. After returning this time, the Dan essence cultivators of the Wang family looked at Zichen with admiration and awe. In this battle, they were able to smoothly destroy the enemy because of the 8 exploding Dan essence cultivators. In addition, Zichen provided them with Yuan liquid, which provided them with infinite combat power. Of course, Zichen killed the other Dan essence cultivators who came to support, which was also the key to victory. Just as the city was celebrating, a large group of more than 100 Dan essence cultivators appeared in the sky above Yunxia City, casting a large shadow. Such a scene frightened many people, and they hurriedly reported to the experts of the clan. When the Wang family's Dan Yuan heard this, their expressions changed greatly, and then they all appeared. When they saw more than 100 Dan essence cultivators in the sky, they all sucked in cold breaths. Then they put on an expression as if they were facing a great enemy, Lord Zichen. But in the next moment, all these core essences respectfully called out in unison. The dumbfounded crowd automatically parted, and Zichen walked out from the crowd. He looked at Hei Feng and nodded. Heavens, those people are called Lord Zichen. Are they all Zichen's men? Zichen actually brought over 100 sect masters. Cries of surprise came from the crowd below. All the cultivators' faces were filled with worship and fanaticism as they watched the essence cores land on the Wang family. Soon, the news that Zichen had found another 100 reinforcements spread like wildfire, following closely behind the news of the destruction of the Tsang and Li families. All the core essences entered the Wang family, and many Wang family cultivators were still in disbelief. Zichen had brought over 40 core essences with him when he came, and they were all very powerful. Now he had brought another 100. At this moment, they finally understood how powerful Zichen was. "Where's the devil ape? Why didn't he come back with you?" Zichen asked when he didn't see the devil ape in the group. The devil ape said that he would go to Danyang City first, and asked us to come here first, Heifeng said respectfully. Danyang City. Zi-chan was stunned. Then a smile appeared on his face. If the devil ape went to Danyang City, then the Zhu and Qin families of Danyang City would be in trouble. There's no battle recently. Go and rest first. The more than 100 core essences settled down, just like that. The Wang family had already cleared out a place for them to stay. After arranging the core essences, Zi-chin called Longhu over. The core essences of the 20 soul seeds that Longhu had brought were all used up in this battle. The following battle would obviously be more intense, and it was necessary to use the cannon fodder's core essences to exhaust the enemy, so he had to go back and replenish his core essences. Longhu returned on the same day. As for Zi-chin, he originally had 10 soul seeds, but now there were only 3 left. Logically speaking, he should also go back, but judging from the current situation, he couldn't leave yet. The devil ape and the spirit-devouring rats came back almost at the same time. As soon as the devil ape came back, he took out a lot of resources and primordial stones, piling them up in the room. Obviously, these were the spoils of the battle. After asking the devil ape some questions, Zi-chin said just as the devil ape was about to leave, "Devil ape, go and call Wu-lu." After the devil ape left, Wu-lu soon arrived. When he saw the materials and primordial stones that filled the hall, he was also stunned. "My lord, these are—" Wu-lu asked doubtfully. "Put these things away, then ask Monk for the spoils of the Tsang and Li families. We'll let Monk keep the things that are useful for now, and you can put away the things that aren't. We'll use them when the battle is over," Zi-chin said. Wu-lu nodded, and there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. Zi-chan was willing to let him do this, because he trusted him completely. As the light flashed, Wu-lu put away all the things in the hall, and then asked, "My lord, now that we've conquered Songli City, who are we going to fight next?" Zi-chin thought for a while and said, "We won't be fighting anyone for a while. Let's rest for a while. We might not need to fight next, as they'll come to us on their own accord." After hearing this, Wu-lu pondered for a while and understood Zi-chen's meaning. He nodded and said, "That's right. We've shown a strong battle strength that can destroy an entire force, so they're naturally afraid that we'll defeat them one by one. Therefore, if they want to stop us, they'll have to gather in advance and unite the core essences of all the forces to besiege us." Zi-chin nodded with a smile. "If that's the case, then the next battle should be the decisive battle. The next battle will also be the most crucial battle of life and death," Wu-lu said in a low voice. Zi-chin had always held the initiative since he came to the barbarian land. This time he brought people to destroy one of the forces, which intimidated the other forces. Moreover, the demon ape had gone to Danyang City to kill without restraint, so the other forces would definitely take measures. Therefore, the next battle was inevitable. After Wu-lu left, the spirit-devouring rat came in. It had been in charge of gathering information since it came here. In today's battle, out of the 12 assassins, Zi-chen had killed 11 and purposely let one escape so that the spirit-devouring rat could follow him to the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion's base. It's different from the last time. These assassins are indeed cunning, the spirit-devouring rat said angrily as soon as it came in. It had chased the assassins twice, but went to 2 different places. After that, the spirit-devouring rat explained the situation of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion's base in detail. Zi-chin nodded and said, "Don't worry, we still have a chance." The truth was just as Zi-chin expected. On the 4th day after Songli City's destruction, the strongest cultivators of the other forces had already gathered together. The 2 late primal core experts of the Tsang and Li families who had escaped last time were also in this group. Although they had lost their families, their own strength and background made it so that no one dared to underestimate them. "Brother Tsang, tell us the details of the battle so that we can find Zi-chen's weakness," the Zhu family's Dan Yuan said. Everyone present was at the late primal core stage, and they still found it unbelievable that the 2 forces were destroyed in less than a day. The Tsang family's Dan Yuan spoke with a furious tone and one could hear the dissatisfaction in his voice towards his companions. Later, it was proven that it was not that the reinforcements did not come, but that Zichen had turned into an assassin and killed everyone. Therefore, even if the two of them were angry, they had nowhere to vent it. You mean that they self-destructed their primal core as soon as they came? The Zhu family's Danyuan chose to ignore the dissatisfaction in the Tsang family's Danyuan's voice and asked directly about the battle. 8 of them self-destructed right off the bat, causing us to lose nearly half of our Jinyuan. Furthermore, this isn't the first time this has happened. Last time, Zichen also self-destructed his Jinyuan to restrain Brother Chu. This time, it was the Li family's Jinyuan who spoke, self-destructing their primal core? Where did Zichen find such loyal subordinates? And they self-destructed at the beginning of the battle. Is this how the fringe fights? Ask the Zhu family's Danyuan. We don't have to care about how they fight. As for self-destructing their primal core, if we are careful, we may not lose every time, said the Gung family's Danyuan. The others nodded. It took time for one's primal core to self-destruct, and since they knew about it, they just had to be careful in the next battle. By the way, Brother Tsang, you said that Zichen's men have a kind of multicolored liquid on them that can restore all of their combat power after swallowing it, said the Gung family's Danyuan. I have received accurate information from the Assassin Pavilion that is a type of essence of very high quality. It can instantly restore one's energy. But according to the assassins, this essence is very expensive. Every drop can be sold for a sky-high price. So, Zichen shouldn't have a lot of it on him. That's right. Our Zhu family once found this essence on the Qin family's boy. Its effect is indeed extraordinary, said the Zhu family's Danyuan. This essence is indeed troublesome. If Zichen's men didn't have it on them, we might have one, said the Li family's Danyuan as he recalled the previous day's battle. His heart was filled with anger. We can completely rule out essence. This thing is measured in high-grade primal stones. A drop is worth tens of thousands of primal stones. So, Zichen shouldn't have much left. We just need to be careful about self-destructing. But we don't need to worry about the essence. So, the next step is to discuss how to attack Yinxia City. Just as the group was discussing, a primal core walked in from outside and whispered something in the Chu family's Danyuan's ear. After the primal core left, the Chu family's Danyuan's face paled. What's wrong? The others looked at him in confusion. The Chu family's Danyuan smiled bitterly and said, The latest news is that there are suddenly more than 100 primal core cultivators in Yinxia City. They were all brought here by Zichen from the fringe. More than 100 primal core cultivators? Damn it, where did he find so many primal core cultivators? Hearing this, the others' expressions changed.